Tonight's class is sponsored by Chesed of Lakewood, and it's being given l'zecher nishmas my father, David Schwartz. My father was a rabbi who was very involved with the public. He gave of his time, without a limit. And he was nifted about 13 months ago. So I started giving these marketing courses, l'zecher nishmas. It should be a schus for him. Some people in the room were here in the past from my other classes, so there'll be some crossover of the material. But if you're here for the first time, there's a lot to learn, and we'll just quickly review the things that were touched upon in previous classes, just enough to bring out the points for this class. Why is marketing important? It's a good question. Most people have a word association with marketing as advertising. It's a pretty limited understanding of what marketing is. But I guess to explain why marketing is important, I'll just ask you a question. I'm going to say a story, really. Two guys, Chaim and Yankel. Chaim starts a landscaping company in Lakewood, and Yankel starts a landscaping company. Chaim's super successful, right? You talk to him a year later, he's doing great, he's getting paid, he has jobs, he's expanding his fleet, he's buying more equipment, he's hiring more workers. He's doing amazing, he's happy, he loves his business, he talks about it excitedly. The other guy starts his business at the same time, same service, different part of town, they're not competing with each other, but yet, every time you talk to him, he's miserable, he doesn't get paid, he's constantly getting phone calls, people are calling him to come do their lawn, and then they cancel on him at the last minute. His business isn't growing, he's barely getting by, and he's just miserable. They're the same lawnmowers, same skill of workers, it's low-skilled work, and it's a question, why would one guy be so successful and happy and the other guy is miserable? So the difference is in what actions you take with the business, right? Both of them have the same feature. They both cut people's lawns. But the way you approach cutting people's lawns, the way you approach your customers, and the way you approach keeping your customers happy, that's marketing. Okay, marketing is not running the ad in a magazine and hoping for the best. Chaim, who's successful, is marketing well, and Yankel, who's not successful, is marketing poorly. That's pretty much the breakdown. So I know that's okay. I didn't say much, but that's really the essence of what happens. That's the difference between success. Now, obviously, we're in a room full of From Yidden. I would say that we understand Siyata D'Shmaya plays a tremendous role. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm not here to discuss the hashkafa of business. I'm here to discuss the hishtadlus of business. So you have to cut me some slack on that one. So I'll get into the reasons why Chaim can be successful and Yankel is suffering, even though there's clearly a demand for the business and there's no clear advantage of one over the other. Okay, so when people think about marketing, the first thought you do is you look at the marketing leaders. Who's famous for marketing? Right? People look at starting a business and you're like, I need to do good marketing. People will say something like that to themselves. So they'll look at Apple, they'll look at Coke, right? They'll look at big leaders in the world, titans of industry and titans of commercial products, and it's amazing. Apple has these billboards over the Holland Tunnel and Lincoln Tunnel, they run ads. They're amazing. They're so good at marketing, right? That's what people say. Apple's so good at marketing. And then they go to the graphic designer and they say, I'm starting a business, I'm starting a landscaping company, you got to make me ads. I have to look as good as Apple. They have to do amazing ads, right? What people don't understand is that that's not true. The belief that Apple or Coke is a phenomenal marketing company, which they are, because of their ads, is false. Okay? Most mass market marketers, right, people who advertise just everywhere you go, you see their billboards, you see their print ads, they're doing promotional products, they're sponsoring concerts, they're naming stadiums after them. Why does Coke name stadiums after them? Now, there might be a reason because they want to get their drinks inside, but people are going to be buying Coke anyway, so that's not really the real reason. So you have to understand that there's a reason why big companies who are very, very good at marketing do their marketing, and why us sitting in the room. Unless someone in the room is a multi-billionaire with a global company and they could raise their hand. Okay. So then what I have to say is for you. Okay, Coke and Apple are marketing in a way that is making people, besides their customers, respond. Okay? They could be marketing for a number of reasons. Number one, they could be marketing because of their employees, right? When you have 50,000 employees, you put out an ad touting the amazing benefits of your company, right? Or that you see ads, full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times for a company. It could be a pat on the back for their employees. The same way they give their employees 401k and take care of them and put bean bags and ping pong tables and their perks to keep them happy. One of the things they do is advertise. Okay. Number two, they could be advertising because of shareholders, right? People need to know that they're successful, and it's basically a chest thumping. They put out an ad, they put out a billboard in a prime location, and that's why they're advertising. A third reason is because they have a marketing budget. Okay, if Apple puts out an iPod 10 years ago, they put out the first iPhone, they probably got together and said, how much money is it going to take for us to figure out how to get these brand new product into people's minds? And they probably set a budget, okay, we're going to spend $500 million this year. Okay, 18 months later, they're working on their budget for for 6 months from now, and they ask themselves, okay, the marketing guys say, okay, listen, we know our budget's going to be slashed. We're not marketing a new product anymore. We got to make an excuse or make a reason why, a corporate reason why, that the marketing numbers need to stay flat, and we're going to do the same thing we did past year because who knows, we might have more market penetration. There's all sorts of complicated reasons. I know this on a smaller scale. I'm in commercial real estate for a living, 9 to 5. And we have large budgets and very, very big buildings. You're talking about $1 million budgets, $2 million budgets. And building management will fight tooth and nail over small petty things because, or not petty things, but even things that they're afraid they won't be money for the next year. Like we replaced a motor in an air conditioner today. Out of abundance of caution, let's do it. We have $2,000 in the budget. Let's do it this year because maybe it will break. Or if we don't replace it this year again, then the next time I ask for it, you're going to say it's not necessary. And the engineer wants to make sure that the equipment is well maintained. Okay, so that's a sort of super specific example. But the point is that when you see mass marketing out in the world, you can't look to that for inspiration for how you can market your business, okay? These ads, simply put, are not to produce results. They're not to make money. They're not direct response ads. Apple's not putting out an ad, a billboard on top of the Lincoln Tunnel, hoping that you'll pick up your phone in the early days, going to the AT&T store and getting your iPhone. Certainly, there are some people who would respond to that, absolutely. But that's not the real reason. So if you apply the lessons that you see around you, okay, to your own business, you're going to fail. Number 2 is, even if some of these companies, for example, naming a stadium, or they do these large-scale marketing events, or just even print ads in trade magazines, all the type of broad, general advertising that they do all over the place, naming stadiums, it's backed up with something. It's not that you'll start your business here in Lakewood, landscaper, you'll run ads everywhere, and you'll get the response that Apple gets. Do you have the same distribution network as Apple? Do you have the same technology moat? Do you have a lawnmower that can cut grass in 5 minutes as opposed to everyone else is doing it in an hour? That's what Apple had. Do you have the most popular soft drink in the world? No. So if you don't have that, then just look at a company and say, let me see what they're doing externally to promote their business with marketing and apply it to what I'm doing, just cruising for a bruising. Because they have, A, different motivations for marketing, B, they have different products and different services and different features of their business, right, that make sense to marry to that type of mass market advertising. And in addition, there's really a third but less relevant point, is that a lot of that big advertising that you see in the world is a legacy from mass market advertising. In the 40s and 50s, years ago, in the advent of these, there was no such a thing as advertising. It was new. In the late 1800s till basically the 1950s, it was an explosion of media. There was no such thing as radio until the 20s or 30s, right? Commercially available radio. And when it was invented, everyone gathered around to hear what the radio was saying. It was important. It was the only source of information. So companies were able to basically set the agenda. Here we go. This is what we're offering. This is what's good for you. If you ever listen to old commercials, there were advertisements from cigarette companies saying that Camel was the brand that most doctors smoked. Crazy, right? You wouldn't believe such a thing would fly in this day, but you can go on the internet, you can go listen to recordings of these ads. But why did they work? Because people inherently trusted the sources of information that there were. So it was a winning tactic. You put an ad in the paper, people thought, if you published an ad in the paper, it must be true. So there's a lot of that left over. Today, people are a lot less gullible, people are a lot more hardened, and the mass market is different. So when you look at mass marketing, that's not helpful for a small business, mid-sized business, large business. You have to look elsewhere. You have to have a more definite plan. So the goal of tonight's seminar and what I advocate is practical marketing. Then my company, my consulting is practical marketing. And the reason I call it that is because I'm about practicality, okay? I define marketing as anything you do to make it more likely for people to choose your goods and service. It's as simple as that. I'll repeat it. Marketing is anything you do to make it more likely for people to purchase your goods or services, or choose your goods and services, not always a purchase, okay? So if that's the definition, and the definition of business is an endeavor that makes a profit, even if you're a non-for-profit, you're trying to bring in more money than you make, let's define profit like that. So if that's the case, then your marketing, right, should be with the goal of making money. If your marketing is not set with a goal of making money, and you're just saying to yourself, oh, well, if I have a really snazzy website and I'll do a massive ad campaign, because it clearly is working for some really successful people out there, like I said, you're not going to end up with the results that you want. And even if it does work occasionally, so then people will say to themselves, you see, it works. Well, it can work with a lot less money and a lot better placed effort. So the goal tonight is to really go through a practical sense to marketing, a practical approach to marketing, that if you have a good and service, how can you connect with the people who want to buy it and be successful in getting people to choose your goods and services? And I wouldn't say over your competitors, but just simply to choose your goods and services. How can you do that? I have in the outline, there's a quote. It says, half the money I spend on marketing is wasted. The problem is I don't know which half. The truth is that a lot more than half is wasted. Right? There is no way for Coca-Cola to quantify how much revenue they bring in from naming a stadium in Atlanta because they're in Atlanta. Right? There's no way to quantify it. Is there a reasoning behind that? Absolutely. Coca-Cola is based in Atlanta, right? They want to have goodwill when it comes to labor disputes. There's a lot of other reasons. So if you were thinking about purchasing a stadium named after your company, right? Think to yourself, well, do I stand to gain the same thing as Coke does? Recently, I saw a friend of mine, he works in the nursing home business, and he posted on social media that his company was running ads in the Brooklyn Nets. And I asked him, I was very curious, why is a nursing home running ads in the Brooklyn Nets stadium? I mean, what possible gain can you have? He's like, oh, well, we're in Brooklyn. I said, okay, well, what's the did you guys do a demographic study? Like, you figure out, well, the real reason he doesn't know, I know because I was in business for longer than he was, that's the only reason I know, is that most likely the sales guys in the nursing home business have some sort of deal with the Brooklyn Stadium that they have box seats or tickets or some sort of thing, and they use that in their sales efforts. So they made quid pro quo where they run ads. And right, but otherwise, there's really no reason for a nursing home to be running ads. The seniors aren't there, and most people who have elder parents or they're making a decision about elder care, they probably don't have time in the evening to go to a game. It's not a likely demographic to run ads. So my point is that when you see advertisement, just because there's an opportunity to advertise, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It's not universal. Marketing fundamentals are universal. Marketing efforts are not universal. What works for one does not work for the other. And even if it does work, it costs you a tremendous amount. With money that you don't have to spend and would be better spent elsewhere. Just quickly, when I said everything that you do, we had a course here a few weeks ago where we talked about my first course was the fundamentals of marketing. When I say anything you do, so how do you really divide anything you do into like a more relatable and digestible chunks? So there's 5 Ps. I'll just go through them quickly. It's definitely not within the scope we did in a 2-hour class last time, so I definitely don't have the time to cover it now, but there are 5 Ps to marketing, okay? That's product, price, placement, promotion, and people. Those are the 5 areas, if you think about it, where you can actually say, okay, how can I tweak this to make it more likely? Okay, product would be obviously, if you're a service, then tweaking your service, right? Answering phone calls faster. If you're a product, having a better feature. A cell phone with a camera, a cell phone without a camera. The one with a camera is going to sell more. It's a better feature. Okay, and it doesn't have to be obviously something as hard as that. It can be anything. So that's placement is where you're placed in time or space. Okay, are you running ads at the right time? Are you running ads in the right place? Are you running ads? If you sell golf gloves, are you running ads in a general sports equipment, or are you running ads in Golf Digest? Right, one's a better place to run. Even though there are people interested in sporting goods reading one magazine, there are more reading the other. Okay, promotion is advertising. Okay, promotion is getting the word out. So what can you do to make it more likely that people see your ads? Maybe you're not exploring new channels. I myself just recently started using the WhatsApp status channel. It's very, very popular here in Lakewood. Thought it would be a great way to spread the word about courses. So there's different channels, you have to pursue them and use them. And people is an underrated part of marketing, that since a lot of businesses are people related, okay? You have your customer service reps, you have your workers in the field, right? If you have, for example, you're a mover and your guys are rude or they smash things, right? So that's a bad product, but if they're rude, and even though they're great movers, that's bad people. And that will make it less likely for someone to refer you, less likely for someone to choose you in the future. Those are the 5 Ps. Okay, so just a quick review of the 5 Ps. Okay, so before we get into marketing, which is more, I look at it like a more of a holistic, whole picture of marketing for each business, I really want to talk about branding. Okay, branding is probably a pet peeve of mine. I hear it all the time. I talk to people in marketing all the time, and people say, "Oh, I'm going to do a good branding." Okay, and people, graphic designers, tout themselves as branding experts. Okay, most people's concept, and I would say that, raise your hand if you think otherwise, but most people think branding is the look of a product, the packaging, the logo. Anyone disagree with that statement?
The value that you offer.
Okay, very good. That's just one piece of it. Branding is much, much more than the look of your product. Branding is, okay, in the olden days, branding was what you branded animals. Okay, you took a hot iron, you heated it up with the letters of your initials, and you stuck it into an animal's backside to show it was yours. Okay, branding is the impression, the strong impression that you put on what you offer. okay? So branding is really, people approach branding backwards. They look at design and then they go back to what they stand for. It's really the opposite. Your brand is really your business's moral compass. And this is super important. If you take one thing out of this tonight, this is probably it, okay? Branding is a moral compass, okay? You have to decide, what direction does my business point? I don't mean right or wrong. I mean, what does my business do? A landscaper can do 100 types of landscaping, okay? A builder can do 100 types of building. A software programmer can do 100 types. You have to decide what is in front of me. What's my true north? What is the thing that I want to do? What is the thing I'm really good at? What is the thing that I do best? What is the thing that I create the most value with? So your branding is, I am, fill in the blank, okay? A good place to start, okay, Simon Sinek has a whole book on it, which is called Start With Why, but you ask yourself, why do I do what I do? Okay, and I'll elaborate a little bit with an example of why that question of why do I do what I do is relevant to your branding compass. Okay, design is sort of like reflective of your image. So let's say, for example, you were a fitness trainer, right? But you were into stretching, Pilates, yoga, right? And there was another type of fitness trainer who was into, powerlifting, weight, muscle building, that type of power. They're both in the same business. They both do one-on-one training to help people achieve their fitness goals. But one guy's logo is going to look a lot different than the other person's. One person's logo is going to look flexible, bendy, and round. Another one's going to look like octangle, hard. The design will flow from the reason why the person does what they do. One person believes people should be as flexible as possible to live life to their fullest. One guy believes people should be as muscular as possible to live life to their fullest, right? If they can make up a mission statement for a fitness coach. But their logos will be reflective of what their mission is and why they do what they do. I love seeing people gain the weight that they want to gain. I love seeing people being able to touch their toes for the first time in their life. Right? Different why, different reason, different design. Not the opposite. Okay? I want to give two examples. One I covered last time, so I'll do it quickly. And one, I'll do a branding fail and a branding win. Okay? Branding fail is Kodak. Okay? Kodak was the dominant player in cameras. They had the camera and film business. Film was a multi-billion-dollar business around the world. In the olden days, people took pictures with film. And they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that they weren't in the camera business. There was a slogan that everyone knows, most people know in the room. A picture was called a Kodak moment. People would say it, a Kodak moment, because they knew they were in the business of capturing moments. But when they had an opportunity to invent digital cameras, one of their engineers patented the digital camera. They said, this is crazy, it will never be commercially viable, and it's going to ruin our film business, right? And they were foolish because obviously technology advanced, and today nobody needs film, and the billions upon billions upon billions of dollars they could have made by being the dominant player in digital cameras was wasted because they were focused on preserving their film business. Now, why is that a branding fail? Because they didn't consider what they did. They didn't really believe. They probably hired an ad agency to come up with that slogan. The ad agency clearly understood what business they were in. They were in the film and camera business. The ad agency who made up that slogan understood that they were in the memories business. Okay? So if you're in the memories business, and that's your true north, I'm in the business, I love giving people the best possible way to preserve their memories. That if someone comes to you with a digital camera, it's a no-brainer, right? It's not even a question. We have a film business. So we'll transition out. This is the future. This is the best way. We're gonna kill it. We're in the business of helping people preserve their memories. Digital cameras with no restriction on how many precious pictures you could take in that one moment, right? It's absolute no-brainer. If you really truly believe you're the Kodak moment company, not the film company, then you know what to do at that moment. They didn't know. Okay, so that's why branding is super important, because you can make a failure like that. Now, obviously, you're talking about multi-billion dollars, and you're thinking to yourself, listen, I need every customer I get, what's branding? But I'm telling you, it is relevant to you, and we'll talk about why. A branding win is Southwest Airlines. Now, Southwest recently had some pretty bad things happen to it, but for 30 years, Southwest was the most popular airline in the United States, okay? And they were started by two down-on-their-luck guys, like a business guy who got divorced and lost all his money, and then his crazy lawyer friend, and they were upset. They had a lot of flying back and forth in Texas. Texas is a huge state, a lot of domestic travel even within the state, and they were very unhappy with the solutions and the pricing, and they didn't like anything. They decided to upend the whole market, and they came up with a slogan that we are the low-price airfare. The low-price airline. That is what we are. Our mission is to be the low-price airline. And they were very successful, and they came up with a lot of features. They didn't just say it. They did things that changed the industry. One of the things they identified was The reason why tickets cost so much is because there's a tremendous amount of turnaround time. Planes take forever to turn around, they get a new pilot, so they changed their whole business model. They developed new ways to deploy their crews, and they made negotiations with the airports. They changed a lot of things that you don't see, that a customer will never see, and wouldn't even notice, because American Airlines, they don't tell you there's 35 minutes between flights. On the schedule, it's not different, but American Airlines had to come up with a third plane. They bridged that gap. Southwest never did, and that's how they were able to provide lower costs. So one day they were having a board meeting, and one of the people came in, their marketing director came in, and she said, we've been conducting surveys on how to improve our service, because obviously, there's always room to improve. And one of the people said, we'd really like if you'd be able to offer on like the longer trips, like the lunchtime trips, you should offer a chicken salad on the menu to buy, not for free, to buy. And Herb said, listen, the customer says they want a chicken salad for sale, but what they really want is the low-cost airline. And they don't understand that if we have to provide that salad, on some months we'll sell well, some months it won't sell well. It's a perishable item. It doesn't fit into our compass. If we start looking at our business compass, is this near the north? No, it's not. It's all the way out here. Maybe it'll make some people happy, but it's not achieving our goal of being the low-cost airline. And that is an example of a branding win. When you really focus and know what your branding is, most people would say, what do you mean? It's a great idea. This is what you got from the customers. It's overwhelming. They want the chicken salad. It's money. You'll have more sales. It's a premium item. It's a great idea, right? But he knew that would potentially drive up costs. And he knew that in addition, even if it didn't drive up costs, it wasn't part of their marketing resources. They didn't have the bandwidth, the money, the expense, anything that would be deployed to get chicken salads onto their planes would take away from the mission of being the low-cost airline. That wasn't their competency, and that wasn't what they were telling customers. That wasn't why people were choosing them. So they understood that even though the customer said they wanted it, they were able to look at their branding and realize that wasn't the right move. Okay? I'll give you a really like a more relatable example just for us. Let's say you're starting an IT company, right? You're going to manage people's IT. So there's two ways to approach IT. Okay? You could say to yourself, I believe that IT costs, managed IT costs a lot of money. It's a big drag on businesses. Everyone needs computers, but does it really need to cost $100 a worker per month, whatever the cost is? I believe that it could be done for $80 a month. That's what I believe. Companies should be up and running, in the digital era without having a huge drag on the bottom line. That's my belief. As another guy starts an IT company, right? Let's call Chaim and Yankel, our landscaping buddies. So Chaim's so successful, he's branching out to other businesses, and Yankel's failed at landscaping, so now he's trying IT. He says, I believe that people should be as safe and secure as possible. Okay? IT is all about protecting data, protecting your customers' information. It's too important to be left to chance. I believe in safety. So for the most part, they approach things the same way. But when it comes to a question of like offering a secondary backup server in the person's office, right? Mr. Economicals doesn't believe in that. It doesn't make sense for him to offer that. It will take away from the people he attracts. Why are you trying to sell me these additional services? Do I really need it? What's the chance that it will fail? The business guy will tell him. 99.999% that's going to work. So for that 1% chance, I need to get out of here. I'm not paying any extra for the server. Mr. Safety is on the other hand says, listen, what happens if there's a 1% chance? I believe that it's worthwhile. I'll make a cost-benefit analysis. It's worthwhile for you to have that backup server. Now, what does that mean? It's not just what they internally believe. Who is Mr. Cheap going to attract? He's going to attract a certain niche of customers. Startups, people who don't really need their computers, like they barely use it, checking email, okay, computers go down, we'll look at our phones. And the guy who is all about safety is going to attract people who are much more data conscious, people in the nursing home industry who have HIPAA regulations, people in financial industry who have FINRA regulations. They don't have that luxury to be cheap. What if they get hacked, right? So that branding will focus. Let's say the guy's going to do sales. Which type of industry event to go to? Well, if I'm a cheap guy, maybe I should go to an industry event that's tailored towards. On the same night, there's two events, right? One's tailored towards startups or people who are, industries where I feel like I'll be able to sell. And the safety guy will go to a banking and a title insurance or real estate agents who have a lot of money going through their accounts. They never want to be hacked. They always want to be safe. You go different type of events. So you as an IT person, you're looking for opportunities. You're trying to do sales. Your salespeople are out. Where do they go, right? It's two events, same night. You have to pick one. By having a strong branding, having a strong business compass, you'll know where to go. So that's why it's essential to have good branding. Everything else about branding flows from there. Your ads, your logo. Okay, so that's why it's relevant to have a strong branding. Before we get into like what to do, I'm really trying to give a preface of some of the things that you need to know. Now, some of you may know this. I always understand that when I give classes, I'm not assuming that you don't know anything. I'm just saying sometimes it's just good to hear it over coherently as part of a larger plan. Okay? Pricing structure. Okay, a lot of people start a business or in a business and they neglect to think about money. Okay, and no one likes to think about money, likes to talk about money. It's a taboo subject, but the bottom line is, if you want to be a successful marketer, you have to be able to talk about money. And the reason why is like this. A business is all about making a profit, okay? You can't service your customers. You can't do really anything in business if you're struggling. It's very hard to provide service. It's very hard to send money to improve your products or anything else. Knowing what your costs are and what your pricing structure needs to be is super important, okay? So I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, what is the net amount of money I need to make? Not revenue, not how much I bring in. How much money do I need to survive? Is it $50,000? Is it $100,000? Is it $500,000? Let's say you have an existing business and you have employees already. You have to ask yourself, what is the number? Because marketing is about, if you define marketing like we have discussed, is bringing in money and it's about making money, not just marketing for marketing, then you need to know how much money you need to make. That will determine your price. That will determine the type of things you do. That will determine the type of money that you spend, right? If I know I have to achieve $500,000, I won't set a marketing budget of $2,000 because I need to make a lot more money. So it's legitimate to spend more money on whatever I'm spending to get the results that I want, right? If I'm selling a $5 item, I'm not going to spend $5 acquiring that customer. If I'm selling a $500 item, I might spend $5 to acquire that customer. And that all flows backwards from your bottom line. Start with the end. What's your bottom line? What is the money that you want to make? Once you know your bottom line, it informs a lot of your decisions about marketing, okay? And when a lot of people fall into this trap of only considering revenue, like, oh, I need to make $200,000. You need to know about profit, net profit. How much money do you need to make? Not just bring in, not sales, because that's not enough. And when you calculate how much money you need, don't just calculate the cost of goods. I'm not going to say, oh, I sell ice cream. Okay, ice cream costs me 10 cents from the distributor, and I sell it for $1, making 90 cents. It's not true. You have gas, you have insurance, you have rent, you have overhead, you have your payroll company, you have whatever software you're paying for, you have marketing, advertising. So everything that you spend in order to make money has to be calculated into that return. So your net is what you bring in minus your expenses. It's very important to calculate all expenses, not just the hard expenses, but the soft expenses. You can't sometimes pin it down. If you have a dollar store and you sell 1,000 items, it might be hard, but you could definitely figure out a monthly number. I need to make $8,000 a month, and I know I have fixed costs of $3,000, and I have my cost of goods for $2,000, so I need to bring in a $3,000 a month profit. Let's just say that's the number. But it's very important to calculate those numbers in some fashion. Either you have an accountant do it, or you just write it down on paper. Without a number, a hard number that it's a goal that you're achieving, you're going to be making moves that are uninformed, that might be counterproductive. So it's super important to know about money. When you start a business, it's also good to think about the total addressable market. It's called the TAM. They call it an MBA world. The total addressable market is how many customers potentially could I have, right? If you sell medical devices to people who have, a super, super rare illness, so your total addressable market is very, very small, which is why in the medical world, if someone, God forbid, someone has a rare cancer or something, you look at the price of the drugs, it could be $100,000 a pill. Why? Because they know the total addressable market is only, let's say, 5,000 patients in the whole world. The drug company spends a crazy amount of money, but it has to be justified. So that's a reverse TAM. But when you're starting a business, okay, landscaping. Lakewood's a great place to be able to run a landscaping company. There's plenty of people with lawns. Starting a landscaping company in Brooklyn, it's a tougher sell, right? Not everyone has yards. You're going to have to go much further out. You're going to have to charge much less. Or you'll have to charge much more because there's so few lawns, and that might drive away customers. So thinking about your total addressable market is very, very important. And you could do like a little exercise. I was talking to someone recently. I was going through their business, but basically, it was luggage. Someone was selling luggage. So as we said, how often do people buy luggage? Let's just think about it. How often have you bought luggage? Ask a few people if you don't have a good ballpark number, but you can make a ballpark number. Let's say Lakewood, you have 10,000 families, right? Out of those families, so let's say you knock off a third that are way too young, they have one or two pieces of luggage, and a third that have luggage, anyone who's senior, they have all their luggage, but then you have a third of it is growing families, kids going there to stroll. You can think about a very simple demographic study. Okay, so there's 3,000 families, and how many of those people are buying luggage? Okay, everyone's buying a few pieces of luggage a year, so it's 10,000 pieces of luggage that are sold a year. Okay, how much of that market do I have to get in order to make a profit? And I was able to think about this woman's business. We were able to see right away, does this make sense? Like, am I going to get 50% of the luggage market? Am I going to be the luggage magnate of Lakewood? It's unreasonable to think that's true. So if you need to get 50% of a market in order to make money, you're barking up the wrong tree, or you have to have other services. You have to have other products that you sell because you're not going to get 50% of any one market. It's not going to happen. Even Google doesn't have 50% of anything. Maybe search. But other than that, there's competitors in everything. So it's almost impossible to gain 50% market share. So knowing how much money you need, knowing how much money is potentially being able to be made in this particular industry, right? Another solution is, okay, there's only 3,000 families in Lakewood. There's not enough market in Lakewood. Maybe I have to look outside. Maybe I have to figure out ways of selling to people who are not in Lakewood. The point is that if you don't know the numbers, you can't make the decisions. You have to have hard evidence in order to make decisions. So pricing is super important and it can't be neglected. Another point that I'll say about pricing, especially when it comes to services, and a lot of us are in the service industry, is don't charge for time, okay? I was speaking to an artist recently, and she was thinking about charging for her paintings. Oh, I spend this much to paint a painting, and then I'll just mark it up a little bit. I said, how does that make sense? I mean, you're selling something that's essentially worthless. You're selling a painted on paper, right? It's a paper that's no longer useful to anybody. So who's buying a painting? Someone who appreciates the art. So what does that have to do with the cost? You could spend 5 cents flicking paint, a few drops of paint on a canvas and say, this is modern art number 3, and it sells for $1 billion, right? So it's not relevant. Your costs are not relevant when you're selling art. The same thing goes with time, with service. Now you could be in a commodity service business like landscaping, where it's $25, $35 an hour and there's not much wiggle room. But if you're in a business like mine, I do marketing consulting. On my website, I have a few tiers of products. I have pro bono, so if anyone would like to follow up with me afterwards, I do 4 nights a week free. For an hour consult, I charge $500. Just for start up a small business, I charge $2,000 for 3 hours. And to audit your whole business, I charge $10,000 for 5 hours. Why? My cost, usually you go volume, right? You go down in price, but I go up in price. Because the more time I spend, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. The more time I spend with someone, the more value I'm going to generate for them. So it's very important to try to establish yourself as someone who charges for the value as opposed to time. Because if you charge for time, then even if you have your own business, you end up being a glorified, decently paid employee of yourself. So it's super important to know your pricing, know the addressable market, and making sure you don't set yourself up for failure with pricing. Because in a bid to attract customers and get the right price that everyone's going to like, you end up painting yourself into a corner. You end up not servicing your customers because you don't have money to hire employees, you don't have money to invest in your business, you're always busy because you're basically on subsistence wage, right? Even if it seems good, but you're never able to grow your business. So pricing is super important to marketing. And I know I didn't say anything about marketing yet, but this is super important. And if you understand this, again, super valuable. It's worth it. It's worth the price of admission, which is free, just for that point. A lot of times there's a saying that people have heard, which is, if you build it, they will come. That's not true. Okay, if you build it and nobody knows about it, they won't come. And having a great product and service is not in itself good enough. Okay, the key to success is execution. Everyone knows, most people know, about in World War II, D-Day, right? Everyone here heard of D-Day? No? Nobody heard of D-Day in this room? Oh, and heads nodding. Everyone's heard of D-Day. Fantastic. The name of the operation of D-Day was called Operation Overlord. A lot of people probably know that too. Okay? Parallel to Operation Overlord, which was the product, right? Attacking the beaches of Normandy, there was a parallel program called Operation Neptune. Okay? Operation Neptune ran for 2.5 years. That was the logistics behind supporting D-Day. Okay, just give you one example. The beaches in Normandy are very, very shallow. They drop off suddenly, and they didn't have the boats that would survive with infantry standing on them. The guys would they would fly off. They didn't have an existing product in the army to do that type of beach landing. So one of the guys, the Americans on the team, said, you know what, these boats, the type of conditions you're describing, are very similar to the waters in Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico, where they do a lot of oil prospecting. They have heavy equipment. They have similar needs. It's a great fit. And they got these boats and it didn't turn out to be as great, and they were made out of wood, which means they couldn't stop bullets. And they did a lot of experimenting and trying and figuring things out till they got a boat that could actually make the landing. So everyone talks about this great D-Day landing, but if not for the guys trying to figure out different ways to make the boats bulletproof and safe to land, make it through the waves, they never would have been able to land. So the point is that nobody in this room has ever heard of Operation Neptune. I do, because I read a book on it 3 years ago. But the point is that having a great flashy campaign and having a great flashy product or service, it's really down to the execution. Okay, you could have the state-of-the-art computer, but if I lock it in this room and I never show it to anybody, that's not going to sell. So you understand that's obviously a super extreme example of execution versus what you have. So strategy is one thing, execution is much more important than what you're going to do is less important than how you do it. Okay, and actually do it. Another point about business is that having a good system is not just about getting the program out, but it's also about success in business. If you don't have a good marketing infrastructure, and by marketing infrastructure I mean a series of tactics, strategies, plans, and systems that will help you make it more likely for people to choose you, you're going to end up doing everything yourself. You're going to end up running in a treadmill, okay? You own the business. Don't let the business own you. That's a real important fundamental rule of marketing. That if you let the business run you as opposed to running a business, then you will never be able to grow the way you should, or it'll be with tremendous stress and costs that are not necessary. So setting things up, even in the beginning when you're just starting out with only maybe it's just you, having an exit strategy, so to speak, is super important, and we'll talk more about that later. And again, the true cost of marketing is time and money, okay? So in the beginning of a business, you have a lot of time and maybe less money. But later on in business, right, it makes more sense to do things that free up more of your time. It's important just idea that there's going to be a balance of time and money, and you have to know yourself, where are you on the spectrum? One thing I will tell you is that set pretty conservative estimates, set goals, okay? If you're starting a business or even if you're growing a business, if you're doing something that really is not a good use of your time, you should set like a benchmark. Okay, if I hit a certain amount of money per week or a certain amount per day, I'm cutting out this activity and I'm investing in whatever that thing is, a delivery driver. In the beginning of a business, you're the administrator, you're the fulfillment service, you're the delivery driver, you're the customer service, you're the salesman, right? Typically, most business people would prefer to be just the salesman, just the person growing the business. Those other functions have to be filled up by somebody else. Okay, so it's important to set yourself. Okay, it's going to be hard, but as soon as I get to a certain definable benchmark, as soon as we go from $0 a month to $1,000 a month, we're going to hire a delivery service, even if it's going to cut into our profits in the short term, because that is a way to get off the hamster wheel. Okay, with all that preface, let's get into marketing. So you're starting a business or you have a business, and now you want to know what's the practical approach to marketing. So there's 3 stages. Okay, the first stage is identifying and reaching out to your potential customers. Second stage is nurturing, engaging, and connecting with those customers. And the last stage is selling them and using your existing customers to grow your customer base. That's the long and short of it. So you're starting a new business. There's a guy, Allan, who I'll show you guys a book at the end of the class, but he has a great line. He says, find a niche that's an inch wide and a mile deep, okay? In the beginning, and I always say this in the beginning, I'm just saying this because I don't know who's in the room and I don't know what stage of business development you are. Either you don't have a business at all, you have a business you're starting, or you have a successful business, but there's a pressure to do business and get as many customers as you can and just approach everyone you know. It's not really the case. You end up chasing your tail a lot, okay? The best way to start a business is to be a niche, okay? Let's go back to Chaim and Yankel. Chaim said, he called his business Big Lot Landscaping. Okay? And the other guy just called himself Superior Landscaping. So Yankel, who wasn't successful, he was Superior Landscaping. Superior to what? Superior to who? It might sound good, it might sound professional, but it meant nothing to anyone seeing his ads. But the guy who said, I'm Big Lot Landscaping, said, oh, this guy can handle my acre lot in Tom's River. Okay, I'll give him a call. He had something different that differentiated himself. He had a niche. Okay? And when you start with a niche, right, you can dominate a niche. People who need your product, right? You could sell beauty products, right? Or you could sell products for eyebrows, or you could sell products for people with very thick eyebrows, okay? So one's general, oh, they sell beauty products, okay. One's eyebrow, I'm interested, I need to do something about my eyebrows. And one's like, bushy eyebrows, oh my God, I have a problem with my bushy eyebrows, I need to get this product, right? You can clearly understand the logic of being a niche provider, okay? I'll give you an example. Let's say you're starting a shetelmaching business in Lakewood, right? A lot of shetels, big market. So how do you compete with everybody? So you can just say, I'm a shetelmacher, and you could operate, there are things you can do. You could say, I'm convenient, I'm in this development, come to me. Or imagine if a woman started a shetelmacher company where she said, I specialize in only one color of hair. I specialize in redheads, right? I'm a redhead, right? I need a shetel, and you want someone to take care of me. I don't want to go and be competing with everyone else. Maybe there's special things about the color of the hair, the complexion, right? Now, going back to our thing about total addressable market, you might say, well, okay, it's a great niche, and the redheads might come buy shetels from me, but there aren't a lot of them. Okay, so maybe I'll start with someone with brown hair. Smaller niche, but a mile deep. Okay? Regardless, being able to pinpoint a segment or a sub-segment of the market that you want to get and really locking them down is a great way to start your business, because those people will tend to be easier customers to deal with. You won't have to, they won't be nickel and diming you, because they understand that you're trying to fill a need that they specifically have that they can't get anywhere else. Right? There's no other person who specializes in red-headed shetels. It's simple as that. So having a niche is really, really a great way to focus your business and start your business. Even if you're an existing business and you have customers all over the place, and you're trying to narrow down, okay, who are my most valuable customers, or who do I have the easiest lock on? Focus on them. They probably have a similar set of reasons. Focus on them, service them, and they'll be your best customers. Okay. Another point is that there's like 1 billion people in the world, right? 6 billion people in the world to be exact, something like that. There's no lack of customers in the world. There's trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of commerce that happen every year. You can't calculate the amount of money that's changing hands. Believing that, if you don't do these drastic things, be the cheapest or be everywhere at once, and then you're not going to be able to do business, it's just a faulty assumption. There's thousands and thousands of successful business people who have not taken that approach, who have done what was needed. Some people were successful. People are successful for a lot of reasons. There isn't one path to success that you have to take, and you certainly don't have to take the path of cheap, commodity, going after everybody. It doesn't have to work that way. Okay? In fact, it ends up being more effort and less results. So having a niche is important, and how do you determine your niche? Okay, so that's a good question. So you have to ask yourself, who is buying my product? Who potentially could buy my product? When, where, what, and how, right? Ask yourself those questions. By asking yourself those specific questions, you'll sort of develop a picture of your customer, and that will help you tailor all your marketing. If we say anything you do is marketing, okay, but I have a lot of things to do. So, for example, if you have customers that only buy at night, right? So it makes sense to have extra. Let's say you have a store and you have a certain amount of staff. Right? So the question is, should I have extra staff the whole day or should I only have extra staff at night? It's a pretty simple answer. I know my customers only buy at night. Let me make sure I'd rather be short-staffed during the day. I can only afford one worker. I'd rather be short-staffed during the day, but I'd be overstaffed at night. So my customers come in, they're always happy, they're always taken care of, because that's where most of my customers show up. Okay, so knowing the details of not just, I have customers, will they buy, won't they buy, it's why. Right, so if you're starting a new business, it's hard. You might have to make up an imaginary group of people. In digital marketing, they call it avatars. Right, thinking about your customer, like potentially who would buy? I'm selling textbooks for schools. Okay, who would buy it? Principals, schools, and what type of principals? Progressive principals. I have a new thing that's different than all the rest of the curriculum. So thinking through like a mindset. Okay, I'm selling golf gloves. Okay, who would buy my product? Well, it would be a golfer, and it would have to be someone who golfs maybe not just in warm weather. It has to be a competitive golfer. So what type of magazines does he read? What are his interests? Okay, that is the type of questions you have to ask yourself about your customers, so that you can, when you're just doing broad advertising, an ad, right? So you don't have to think about these things. You run an ad and shotgun and whatever you want, right? So, but when you're trying to dominate a niche, you need to know stuff about your customer, and it's not hard. If you have customers, you can ask them. Okay, and if you don't have customers, you can imagine, and you can try something. If it works, great. If not, you try something else. But you can imagine, if you're in the business, you probably do have a good handle on why people are buying your products, anyways. But you have to know. A guy called me up. He said, it's interesting, about textbooks. He said, I need someone who can sell textbooks to schools. I'm having a hard time selling my books directly to schools. He's a publisher. How do I sell books to schools? I said, well, do you ever ask? He said, you sell books to schools? He said, yeah, I have a lot of schools that bought books. I'm just trying to sell more. I said, do you ever ask the schools why they buy? He said, no. They place an order, we fill the order. I mean, what more to do? I said, why don't you ask them why they're buying your books? They're buying a novel for a classroom. Why? Maybe there's a progressive principle. Maybe there's a very firm principle. They don't like the Goyish alternatives. They don't like the secular books. They want to only have a Jewish book. Maybe they have a budget. They must spend X on books every year, otherwise they'll lose a certain grant. So they have an imperative, right, to sell. Okay, what's the difference? Well, it's very different email. If you know there's a bunch of principals who are very progressive, you send them an email with your most cutting edge book and the book that has the most educational value that will be appeal to the reason why they buy books. If you're selling books to someone who has a budget to spend, you can say, here, listen, you can get the most bang for your buck. You'll be able to spend your budget and you'll be able to get the most books for your money, because that's essentially what they're trying to do. Get the most for the school and not lose the money. It's a totally different message. You send that message to a progressive principal who's all about elevating the curriculum. They'll be like, I don't want to buy your books because they're cheap. I want to buy books because our students deserve better. So it's a totally different reason why they buy. Okay? And the guy never asked he never asked. He said, I got orders, thank God, I got orders, and I filled the order, and that's it. That was the end of the day. We'd send them emails, here are the new books we're publishing. I said, who says they want new books? Maybe they want more of the same. You don't know why they're buying or when they're buying, right? My wife's a writer. I have a few books. I'm a little bit in this business. That's why the guy called me. We're not competitors. I have 5 titles. I don't compete with anybody. But this guy's a big guy with a lot of titles. But one of the things I had to determine was when do people buy? So I analyzed my sales after 1 year. I said, you know what? All my sales tend to fall in like 1 month. I wonder why. And I found out why, because that's when the schools have their meetings about the curriculum and then they decide to buy this book or not. So I would time my emails. The next year I timed my emails to go out 2 weeks before I thought those meetings would happen. And I got a much better response. Right? It wasn't a lot of money. We're talking about a very small scale improvement, but there was an improvement because I was timed right, because I took the time to think about my customers. It wasn't hard. It didn't cost any money. I just thought, what's the time? I looked at my sales. Oh, it's all in these 2 month period. There must be a reason why they're advertising. They're buying then. Okay. So a way to get this information about the thing. Let's say you have a business. I'm assuming here that you're not thinking about, which business should I go into? Because then it's endless. I'm assuming you either have some sort of leg into a certain business, or you're ready in something, or you're good at something, or you want to do something. You're a photographer. You have something set that you want to do. The question is how to optimize the results, right, of doing. So if you don't have any paying customers or very few, you can also ask people. You can ask around. You can ask your friends. You can ask your family. You can ask people, just random people. If this is your business, make it your point. Say, I do this cool thing. I have a landscaping company. What do you think about a landscape company that uses green mulch instead of brown mulch? Would that be something cool? I have multicolored mulch. I'm the only guy. The type of questions you ask, you sort of send out feelers and you gather results. I will add one caveat that the customer or the cousin you're asking is not always right, okay? You tell your cousin, would you buy this thing for me? The guy says, sure, of course I'd buy it. But when it comes time to pony up $100 for the thing that you have, it might not be so fast. So don't just take, just unequivocally, okay, fine, I would buy that. You have to do some justification. Another thing is that Henry Ford said this. He said that the customer's not always right. He said, if I would have done what people had asked for, I would have just made faster horses, right? He said that's what people wanted back in the day because that was the concept that they had. And the same thing's true in your business. When people ask you for what they want, they'll say, I want this, or I want that feature. Listen to the reason why they want the thing that they're asking for, right? If you know the reason, if people said, I want faster horses, right? Henry Ford said, okay, speed limit is 25 miles an hour. So if you ask people, what would you want? How can we improve transportation in America? People would say, we got to get the horses to go another 15 miles an hour, right? So he knew what people wanted. It wasn't faster horses, it was a faster mode of transportation, and he had it. Or more dependable, whatever the feature was. So when you take this feedback from people, when you gather feedback from your own customers, right, don't just listen to what they say, right? Sometimes they're wrong, like the chicken salad lady, okay? She's just wrong. I mean, she might want that, but it has nothing to do with what you offer. And number two is sometimes they say they want a faster horse, but really they want a car. Okay, so you have to listen to the reason behind what they're saying. Sometimes you have to ask them. I like it because your packages are so big, right? Well, what's good about packages? Is it because you make a lot of chicken and you sell big packages of chicken? I'm sorry, I forgot to end it, right? Is that what you want, bigger packages? You make bigger packages and nobody buys them, it all goes to waste. Then you call the lady and said, you told me you like my shopping in my grocery store because I have big packages of chicken. Why? I said, because what I do is I make a big batch and I put it in the freezer. Right? I make some for fresh and then I have some for the next night. Okay, so she doesn't like big packages, she likes the ability to make a lot. So then maybe you include a recipe card with your chicken. Maybe you throw in, if anyone buys, $25 worth of chicken, 2 packages, you send along Ziploc bags, like big Ziploc bags so they can freeze it. To know the reason why people want the things they want will allow you to react much better. Okay, so knowing your customers' motivations are important. The main things that you can ask yourself, one of the main things you can ask yourself is, what interest do my customers have, okay, besides what I offer, and what other interests do they have that are related to my offer? So, for example, let's say it's a little bit of a weird example, but it's one I thought of. Let's say you have a marina and you rent slips to boats, right? So, where do you advertise? Okay, so you could advertise in other interests. Let's say you can advertise in those leaflets you pick up in the store that sell boats, like those used boat leaflets. You put an ad in there because it makes sense. Someone who's in the market for a yacht is in the market for a marina slip. But you could also say, okay, what are other interests to people who own yachts? Maybe they're high net worth individuals, and we did some research, you Google it, and you find that they love playing golf. So advertising for your marina in a golf magazine is a great sidestep. It's like an unusual. Your competitors might not be there because it doesn't seem like it's related, but the fact is, it is, because the customers will ultimately use your service, have other similar interests, and developing a persona, right? Let's say you're targeting busy mothers, right? So think about their day, right? If your ad is something that they're never going to see because of their schedule, and you know their schedule, then you have to figure out a way to get them, right? So for example, let's say on Lake, we'll just use a simple example. Busy mothers do carpool, right? So they're in the car. So it might be better to advertise on the radio than advertise in print, because maybe they'll never see your ad, but they'll hear it because they're in the car. There's no way to escape it. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that by thinking about your customers and their life outside of just your product, you're going to be able to come up with good ideas, real good ideas, ideas that will separate you from the millions of messages that are bombarded their way. Okay? That's super important. Think about what keeps your customer up at night. Sometimes it's not so hard, like groceries. What keeps them up at night? Well, they want to be fed, right? So some things are a little bit more simple, and some things have more to it, a little bit more pizzazz to it. But by thinking about, people buy what they want. They don't buy what you sell them. People buy what they want, right? So you have to think about, why does someone ultimately choose me? Why is probably, from all the questions of how, when, where, why is the most important question for yourself? And why is the most important question that you can ask your customers? Why did you buy? Why did you buy today? Why did you buy here? Why did you buy this product? Why? Asking that question, again, worth the price of admission. You start asking why, you're going to get the answers you need to be successful. If you don't ask why, you won't have no idea. I mentioned last time about the baking soda. Used to be everyone, did the baking in their house. People use baking soda. It's a normal thing. You need bread to rise, But today, no one makes bread. And if you have a bread maker, maybe, right? So Arm & Hammer was ready to pull the product off the shelves. They sent out messages to all the retail shops saying, okay, put a sign up. This is the last batch. We're not producing this anymore. No one buys it anymore. And when they started doing that, they started getting calls from retailers. I need whatever you have left in stock. It's flying off the shelves. I said, what's going on over here? We noticed the trend. The sales are dropping every year. And we know why, because people are not baking bread anymore, so no one needs baking soda. We're pulling it from the shelves. So who needs it? We have a whole factory making baking soda that no one buys. Now we pull it off the shelves, everyone goes crazy. So they asked the retailers, ask your customers, why do they want the baking soda? Why are they afraid it's going to disappear? So they said, what do you mean? I use it to deodorize my fridge. And the other guy says, I dump it into my shoes, my seasonal shoes to keep them fresh. One of the things baking soda does, it keeps things fresh, right? It cleans up odors. And that was the sales were dropping because of bread, but they weren't disappearing because of the other uses. And by asking why, till today, you can get Arm & Hammer baking soda, right, from the 1800s, because it has other uses besides making bread. And occasional muffin or bread that people make. But by asking why, you're going to hear the good answers, and you're going to be able to focus on the things you need to do. Okay. We said about developing a niche and thinking about your customer. Sometimes you'll come up with a few niches that make sense for you. Okay, in Allan Liv's book, he gives an example of a photographer. And I'll use that example. Let's say you're a photographer. You can do a lot of types of photography, right? You can do family portraits. You can do commercial interiors. You can do residential. You can do event photography. So which one do you do, right? So he says there's a test that's not his original idea, but it's called the PVP test. Okay, it's value and personal gratification and profit, okay? Value is the things that you enjoy doing, right? You might be a photographer who hates screaming kids and smiling and making faces at them. You don't like taking pictures of families, so it has very low personal gratification for you, right? But there's some people who love taking pictures of families. And the opposite is also true. Some people like taking pictures of buildings. They love capturing it. They're more architectural minded. They like, they just enjoy doing it. So there's personal gratification, and you can rate that from 1 to 10. The other two moving pieces are profit and value. How much value do your customers put on this service? Okay, so for example, commercial photography, a guy might say, I'll pay $10,000 for a photographer to come document my high-rise building, all the different units, right? And if a person who's taking family portraits will only pay $100, $150, $200, whatever the cap is, right? Same amount of hours, not same amount of hours, but same service, taking photos, but one's much more valuable. I'm going to sell these units, make hundreds of thousands of dollars. One guy wants to have a nice picture on his mantelpiece, so he has a capped value. So value, rate that 1 to 10. And the last moving piece is profit, right? You might take a picture of a family for $100. It takes an hour. You made $100 an hour. And you might take your commercial job, that's $10,000, but it takes you 120 hours. So you made $80 an hour because you had to bring in all sorts of rigging equipment and lights. So value profit, and personal gratification are three important moving pieces. And sometimes if you're not sure which thing to go after, you can like write it down, literally give it a scale 1 to 10, and whichever score is the highest, that's the one you can pursue. And, there's other added benefits that are not in this, so it's not as great as it sounds. For example, the commercial photography business, right? Even though you might be making $80 an hour, but that commercial developer might be able to employ you the entire year, whereas the family will hire you once. So there's that peace of mind knowing, okay, I got a pipeline of business for a whole year because I have this commercial client. Okay, so that's just a side note on how to decide which segment is right for you. There was an Italian mathematician who noticed an interesting trend in his backyard. He was growing peas, and he noticed that 20% of the pea pods produced 80% of the peas. Okay, his name was Vilfredo Pareto. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And he may have heard his concept. It's called Pareto's rule, Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. Okay, 80% of your profits and 80% of your problems will be driven by 20% of your customers. The 80% that give you the profits is 20% of customers, and the 80% of your problems will come from the other 20%. That's the way it works. He did a study for years and years. He followed this through mathematics and real estate and income. Everywhere you go, this rule applies, 80-20 rule. 20% of your customers will produce 80% of your profits. Okay, that's another just validation for a niche. You ask yourself, I know it's true in my business, but if you ask yourself really, where does my business come from? Now, if you sell like small services, it might be lifetime, right? You might find that I have this great return customer. He only buys from me 3 times a year, but he's bought from me 3 times a year for the last 10 years. Whereas I had another customer who bought from me twice in 10 years, and each time he groaned and complained. I had to go visit him 5 times, and he caused all the complaints. If you analyze it yourself, you'll see that it's true. In the beginning, when you're starting a business, you don't have the luxury of sifting through your 80-20. But as you start growing, and you're deciding how to market, who you're marketing to is the 20%. You want to get to that 20% that are producing 80% of the revenue. Not saying to ignore the other 80%, but if you had a choice and limited resources, why would you focus on everybody when you have the choice of focusing on a few? Okay? You'll see it's a theme throughout my seminars that what I'm trying to tell you is that don't take a shotgun approach to marketing. Shotgun is a big gun. You press a button, it shoots out 1 million pellets that go in a very wide area. Sometimes it hits something, sometimes it doesn't. It's very unlikely to produce results. A scalpel is something super sharp and small that you operate with finesse, and you cut exactly what you need to cut. Same approach you should take to marketing. The shotgun costs more than the scalpel. Shotgun costs $800. The scalpel costs $259. Right? And it's an example, but it's also true. There are so many things you could do besides the broad shotgun approach to marketing. I call it lazy marketing, just running an ad. I'm not saying running an ad is a bad idea. Running an ad can be a phenomenal idea. But if that's your only idea, then what you're essentially doing is a shotgun blast out to everybody and just spray and pray. Hopefully someone will respond to the ad when you have so many more scalpel options available to you. And as you hear what we're saying is that we're getting to the point that the niche is important. The niche can produce best results. You only have to tailor your message to certain people. If you know that if you have to get to 100 people to make money, but 20%, right, 100 people in the room, I got to get to all 100 to produce my results. Or should I just go to 20 people to get 80% of my results? You know the answer. Go to the 20 people, get 80% of the results, and then go to another room and do the same thing, and you'll have 160% of what you had in the first place. Okay, it's up to you what you want to do. It's not a made-up thing. This is science, fact. You guys, anyone established in business, and they'll tell you that. I was a director of marketing for large companies and small companies, and I'm telling you, this is without fail. The biggest, best customers are your least trouble, and the smallest customers are the most trouble. It's the way it works. So that's sort of how I approach, targeting your market, targeting, the group of people that you want to approach and sell to. Now, once you know your group and you know a lot about them, you know why they buy, you know who they are, the message that you say to them should be fairly obvious at this point. I don't know what you do, but if you have thought a lot about why your customers buy and who's buying and why they choose and when they choose, then the thing that you sell to them should be almost self-evident. Okay, so. But we'll obviously talk about messaging. But once you know your market, now you got to tell them a message. Now you got to I always say business is 3 parts. Okay, business is the product or service that you have. The offer is part 2. Either they come to you or you go to them. Business, offer, getting paid. That is what a business is. There's no other parts to a business. What you have, selling it. Either they come to you or you go to them, and getting paid. If you're not getting paid, you don't have a business. If you don't have a product or service, you don't have a business. And if they don't come to you and you don't go to them, you don't have a business. It's a tripod. You take away one of the legs, it falls down. That's a tripod. If you take away one of the legs, it falls down. There you go. Okay, so now we know what our business is. Now the question is, how do you reach your audience? Okay, so there's like I said, you can do general marketing, you can run an ad, you can look at what other big players do and assume that works, and you'll fail, or you'll succeed at a great cost, and you'll be stressed out. I can't tell you how many people tell me like, oh, I would do marketing, but it's so expensive. It's an oxymoron in my book. If you're doing marketing that's not bringing money, then that's not marketing. So you either should stop doing it, or you're not doing it right. It's one of the two. Marketing is supposed to bring in money. If it's not bringing in money, marketing helps a business. A business that doesn't bring in money is not a business. So therefore, anything that doesn't bring in results is not marketing. Okay, that's how you have to define it yourself. Just running an ad that gets no results. Like people, oh yeah, I ran an ad for 6 weeks. I got a few phone calls. It seems like it's working. I said, well, the ads cost you $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, and how many sales did you do? I made $400. So then that's not marketing, or that's a big failure of marketing. You spent $1,200 and made $400, so you lost $800. It's as simple as that when it comes to knowing what to do. So what I advocate for is direct response, okay? Do things that get response. Do things that get you customers. Now, what can you do to get customers, okay? One of the things is sales, okay? A lot of people are not comfortable with sales. A lot of people don't like to sell. But ultimately, if you go to someone, right, that you think is a potential customer, you're Chaim, your company is Big Lots Landscaping, so you drive around until you find someone with a big lot, and you knock on the door and you say, I see you have an overgrown big lot. I can make it look gorgeous. I can make you have a lot that you'll be proud of. I can make you have a lot that your kids won't get ticks when they play in the backyard, right? You start thinking of, because you've thought of all the reasons why someone would want or need your service, and you start telling them that message. Sales is direct response. Someone could say no to you, but you're sure that they're hearing your message. Maybe they said no to you today, but you could put them on their list. You could say, okay, not today, let me take down your email and phone. Maybe we'll be doing a seasonal spring cleaning, and you'll put them on your email list, and they are now a lead. That is something that gets you a direct response. Maybe it doesn't get you a direct response of sales, but it gets you a direct response of a lead, which is something, as opposed to running an ad where it gets you nothing. Maybe someone saw it. And maybe someone saw it is not a way to do business. So sales, referrals, those are things that are direct response. Even if you do run an ad, it's very important that it should be trackable, okay? And it's very easy today to make things trackable. It's very simple. Put in a coupon. Put in a phone number. These days, with technology, it's readily available to everyone for almost nothing. You can run 3 ads in 3 different places with 3 different messages and 3 different phone numbers and see which one gets the best response, right? Let's say you are a shetelmacher, right? Let's go back to one of our relatable examples. So you could run one ad saying, I have the cheapest price. You could run one ad saying, I have the largest selection. And you could have one ad saying, I have the most luxurious salon, right? Those 3 things might not even be true yet. You might even be just starting your business. If you get 100 phone calls that you have the most, for the one that says you have the most luxurious salon, you call a contractor and you get the wallpaper up and you get some new chairs in, so that when people show up, it's the most luxurious salon. And now you know what the selling point is. But without that, just running the same ad everywhere or cramming everything that you have to say into one ad is just turn the page. It doesn't resonate with anybody. Okay, the person who wants the most luxurious salon doesn't want the lowest prices. Okay, it's different people. It's different people. So it's very important to have a trackable. If you're going to run a print ad, you're going to run a mass media ad, make sure that there's some part of it that is direct response, something that you could qualify and quantify. I got the response, either the one I wanted, the one I didn't, but now I know I can tweak it for the next. I can change my message. I can not advertise. But just to do things into the luft, getting my name out there. I hear people say, I'm going to market to get my name out there. Well, if it's free, go ahead, get your name out there. But if it costs you even a penny, or it costs you time, right? Someone says, I run a free ad. Well, you have to be busy with the ad, and work with the copy, and work with the graphic designer. Your sister-in-law's a graphic designer, and you know someone at the shop or the voice, and they're going to give you a free ad. So it might take you 7 hours of work, right? Would those 7 hours be better spent calling the people you think, let's say you're a shetelmacher, let's use this example. What would be a better use of the time? 7 hours running an ad that maybe will get response, or 7 hours calling everyone in your neighborhood saying, by the way, I want you to know I've started a shetelmacher business, I'm really good at X, and I'm offering $10 off anyone in the neighborhood, special deal for people in the neighborhood. Which one do you think will get better results? I don't think anyone here has a doubt that the lady who made the phone calls will have much better results than her competitor who ran the ad. Simple as that. So doing direct response marketing, making sure that all your response generates some sort of direct response is important. If you ask yourself a question, am I going to be able to track the response to this thing? If the answer is yes, in a good way, then great. If what you're doing is going to generate an ad, is not going to generate direct response. Meaning, it can for certain businesses. I'm not knocking print ads. I'm just saying, If you have many other options besides print ads, which you do, then you should pursue those over a print ad, which is just a sort of a general message. And we will talk about how to optimize ads in the next part. But another great way, especially if you're hesitant to sell. Okay, I spoke to somebody who, he's great at what he does, a super specific line of work that needs a real level of expertise. He has 10 years of experience in it, but one thing, he was working for somebody else, now he has his own business. And he can't sell, he can't sign any customers because he's embarrassed, or he's just shy, or he's not a seller. And he came up with a crazy idea to promote his business, where he'd give away 90% of his profit. Not 90%, like he would be left with nothing. He said, I don't have another way of getting customers. I said, you know what, you have a very simple solution. Get a partner. Get a partner, either hire a sales guy who earns a certain amount of commission. If you're willing to give away 90% of your profit, let's say it's a $100 item, you're willing to give away $90 per sale, so you could find a sales guy who will do it for $50, right? Someone who is comfortable, who the only barrier between you and him is the comfort level with selling. Okay, so hiring a salesperson is a great way to increase business. Another way to increase business is partnerships. And there's several different partnerships that are possible. One is somebody who sells things that you sell. Okay, so let's say you sell paper and someone else sells coffee, and your main markets are offices, white collar office markets. So then there's some sort of deal. They can either make referrals for you, or they can actually sell the product that you want to sell. They're already going to those people. They already have a level of trust. That is a great way to turbocharge your business. If you have something that you're not comfortable selling, find somebody else who sells something to the exact same or very similar set of customers. That will allow you to focus on improving your product, having the best thing, without having all the trouble of selling. Will it cost you money? Absolutely. But it'll cost you a lot more to run ads, right? If the only solution is, I'm going to run ads, hopefully someone will buy my paper. Someone's going to be looking in the voice, right? And they're going to call up because I have paper. Or will they respond to the guy who's in their office anyway, selling them coffee? He says, by the way, I have a good deal on paper. I'll deliver it here. Right? Which one do you think is closer to a choice, a decision being made? The salesman. So finding someone who can either straight up just hire a salesperson, hiring a partner, or hiring somebody, and there's several ways to do also partners. You could do a referral fee. You could do a trade. I'll refer you if you refer me. Obviously, that only works with people who are on equal footing. But like if I have let's say I am in Philadelphia and I have a bunch of coffee customers, and I'm in Muncie and I have a bunch of paper customers, we'll switch. I'll refer you people here and you'll refer people there. That could work. And there's also revenue share. I had someone who's very interesting business. She sells matzevis. Okay, her and her husband sell matzevis. It's a very creepy product, right? It's like, what do you do? Like, how do you advertise matzevis? You run an ad, buy the stone when you die. It's super uncomfortable to sell. So I said, I think the best market for you would be to figure out someone who runs a basic forest. Right? Find out a guy who runs a basic forest. He's already in the morbid business of selling a plot of land to someone who's either doing it for a segula or someone who, I'll say a personal story. My father was nifter. We didn't have a caver. It was like a scramble. Like, who were we going to bury? Is it here, there? And then we had to call. And the guy was very nice. And he made it. He made it as calm. But he had to take a large sum of money for us the day my father was nifter. It was very uncomfortable. So the guys are ready. I said, why don't you make a partnership with someone like that? The guy's already asking the question: how much do you want? Where do you want the caver? These are the prices. He's already in that morbid business. Make a partnership with him. Bring him in as a partner. Either give him a referral fee or give him a portion of the revenue. Let him sell it. So, okay, you want a caver is X, and we also offer, you're going to put matzeva by the shleishim. You could take care of that now, and our people will be in touch with you, after the shiva. It's a very simple solution. It's a direct response. The people calling the guy running the basic forest are in the market for matzevas. Unfortunately, that's what they're in the market for. So obviously, it doesn't have to be as morbid as that. But by finding someone who is directly involved in a very similar business, but not your competitor, is a great way to supercharge your business. Okay, and that could apply to basically anything that you do. Think about the other people who sell to people in a very narrow niche. Okay. I'm also into anything that's high impact and low cost. And if you're going to spend money, make sure that you're doing something real. Okay, so if you spend $300 on an ad, let's say a print ad in Lakewood costs $300. You want to advertise in one of the national papers, Mishpacha, it costs $1,500. That's a lot of money to spend. Think about what you could do for $1,500. If you're running an ad for a few weeks, it adds up real quick. Think of what you could do for $10,000. If you had $10,000, would you run 4 ads in a national paper, or is there any other options open to you? I think that by now, we're 20 minutes into the class, you know that there's some other options available to you. You could hire a sales guy full time for $5,000 a month for 2 months, right? What do you think is going to get a better response? Your ads, because Apple runs ads, or hiring a sales guy for 2 months? I hope at this point none of you have a question about when we'll get better results. Now, not every business is that the choice. Sometimes you have salespeople. You need to run ads so that when your salespeople knock on the door, they know who you are. But if it's part of your marketing strategy, great. If it's not part of your marketing strategy, if it's your default setting, I'm just going to do a general marketing effort because it's the thing that's within my grasp, then you're making a mistake. Okay, I encourage you to do things that have direct response, things that you can track, things that you've thought through, that are not just, an advertising meeting like everyone else. Every business has unique ways of reaching people, and you can do that too. Another thing I would say is that there's a lot of different marketing strategies for anybody, okay? Even a lot of things that will work. But if you look at your compass, you look at your marketing compass, you'll know which thing is the right thing to do, which thing is closest to your north. And I'll give you an example. Right? I said that one of the nice things you could do is give something a little extra, give something free with your purchase. So what are you giving them? People do promo items all the time. There's guys who sell promos. I know I've been in business and did promos, right? If you could do a promo that relates to your business, right? If you're a sheitlmacher, should you give away a fridge magnet or should you give away a brush? Right, or a makeup set, right? Your business is making women look good, right? So you do something that's on brand. I sell books. I was talking to my wife. We're doing a new book. I said, "What's a good promotion? What's something extra we can give and reward our customers?" She said, "Oh, very simple. A bookmark, right? We're going to do a fridge magnet, or we're going to give them $10. You give them something that makes them. It's more than that. It's on brand. It makes the person, the recipient, feel like you understand me. I don't come to get my sheitel done because it's on my schedule. I come because I want my shit to look good. So that if you give me something that helps me look good, then that shows that, okay, you understand me. And that's really the essence of marketing. Since we are operating under the theory that people don't buy what you sell them, but they buy what they want, right? Why don't people buy everything that they need all the time when they need it, right? Why are we always going to the DMV at the last minute to renew our license? Why are we always running to the grocery an hour before shops? Why don't we buy the things that we need anyways, right? A lot of people need life insurance, and then you end up getting it. Why'd you push it off for 5 years, right? Because you didn't want to face your own mortality, right? There's reasons why we don't buy, okay? So the job of a marketer is to connect desire to decision. You can inflame a desire, you can make someone want something, but only once they want it will they buy it. But for the most part, your job is to get people who already want your thing, your product, your service, to make a decision to actually do it. Okay? That's what you're trying to do, connect desire to decision. So by doing something that makes people think about you, by doing a marketing effort that shows the recipient that you understand me, you're thinking about me, that makes it much easier for that click to happen, that spark to leap from desire to decision. Okay? That's super important to know. Okay. So I know I'm running a little behind schedule. I do have a long part of the seminar on advertising. I'll try to go through it quickly because it's really I shoehorned it in. I want to cover it, but I'm going to cover it as quickly as possible. I ask apologies, before we get started. So let's say you are advertising, whether it's paid advertising or it's advertisements, on a WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook, free media, whatever advertising, whatever promotion you're doing. It follows a certain structure. And I want to really go through how to make your advertising as effective as possible. One thing's clear till now is that a general message is not going to resonate with people, or it's going to resonate with people a lot less. You have to pound on their head a lot more before they wake up and say, oh, maybe I should get this thing that you're trying to sell me. A message that resonates is much more effective. So I'm not advocating for the following things that are on the paper, but these are general principles that exist within people and they can't be denied, and they've been effectively used by marketers forever, okay? So you're running an ad, you're not sure what to do, you know your business, right? There are a couple of themes, and you can build your ad around these themes, okay? Let's just go through them quickly. One of the common themes is pride, okay? People are prideful, we're all prideful. So that message would be like, you deserve the best, right? Something you could be proud of. And I give an example, you could use that in academics, right? A school you could be proud to send your children to, right? Because a lot of times we know schools around the world are successful because of the prestige they give. There was just a big scandal about parents bribing school officials to get into prestigious schools. Why? These people were very wealthy. It wasn't like they needed to get into a good school to make money. They were spending crazy amounts of money to get their kids in. It's prestige. And that lends itself to certain things that we all sell. If you're in a business where you can talk to someone's pride, it is very effective. Fashion, art, clothing, even a vehicle or vacation, not really so much relevant in our community. I'm just giving examples of how pride is a theme you can build an ad around. Another one is fear. Okay, common enemy. It's great to make a common enemy. You say, don't get taken advantage of. You're someone who's a financial planner. You say, don't fall prey to a get-rich-quick scheme. Don't lose your hard-earned savings. By creating a common enemy, like someone like them, they're out to get you, that will drive people towards you. It's not that the guy doesn't want to invest his money sensibly. He does. We're not talking about scaring someone into if a guy didn't want to invest, you won't be able to scare him into investing. We're talking about someone who has a desire, and we want to spark the decision. Okay, it's really time for me to put my money somewhere smart, right? Don't let someone take advantage of you. By not playing on that fear, but by highlighting that fear, you will have a better chance of actually getting someone to pick up the phone. Another theme is love. So that could be love for other people or love for something that you care deeply about. Let's say a hobby, or let's say a nursing home, right? Elder care. You have someone you care about, a mother, a father, an elderly person someone you feel a great amount of love and so you want to take care of them. So that is something that you would build an ad around. If you were in a niche business, like something, a hobby, if you were in a bike shop, right, you could talk about the love that someone has. Love, you understand what I mean. It's something, a deep feeling about that. You can run your ad. If you advertise bikes for sale, or you advertise, right, that's a general message, or you advertise, get the bike that will let you climb the mountain at 4 a.m. without ever losing its grip. That's I care about biking, mountain biking, and you sell mountain bikes, so you could do mountain bikes for sale, or a message that will resonate with me, something that I love, and do the thing that we help you do what you love. That's essentially the essence of the message. Greed is a common human emotion, and it's something like you really want. It would be good for something like a health trainer, right? Or investments, return on investments, or food, right? Essentially, when Pomegranate puts a big juicy steak on an ad, that's greed. They're saying, people want that. It's not love. It's fear. It's greed. And guilt is one that, again, I'm not a major advocate of it, but it does work, right? Guilt is, you should be doing this, right? It would work for, let's say, a life insurance agent, or charity. I think there are better ways to do it, but it's not disputable that by telling someone you really should be doing this, it's something you really should take care of, right? School, people do it all the time, right? You make a donation to the school, and 6 months later you didn't pay up your donation. The guy calls up and says, "Listen, you really owe it, right?" And the guy says, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." I think there are better ways to do it, but these are 5 essential human emotions that are worth looking at and saying, how does this relate to my business, and how can I build an ad around it? Now let's take a step back. We're going to go through advertising, but I want to tell you this. I'm not here to tell you that I'm going to give a seminar, I'm going to give you some information, then you're going to go out tomorrow and be a superpower marketer. You might still need help. You might still need to hire somebody. You might still be overwhelmed in some sense. But you're going to be a lot more empowered, right? Maybe before you walked in here, you go to a graphic designer and just make me an ad, this is what I sell. You give them some information, they just, like a Guillebeau, you give them information, they write it down, make it the nicest ad possible, send it back to you. Like it? Sure, you did everything I told you to do. At this point, you should have enough information to be able to analyze your own business, analyze the result you're trying to get, and know how to filter the information that you give to the graphic designer. Maybe you have to talk to a marketer, but instead of them blowing you over with, the information, we're going to do a big ad campaign, you say, you know what, I think my business requires something different. I think I need something that will only talk to a certain group. What's your solution? I don't have a solution, so I'm beyond me. What's your solution to getting to this group of people? Our sheitel macher or the redheads. Oh, we're going to do a big ad campaign in all the magazines. Well, then I'll just be like every other sheitel macher. I only cater to redheads. What's your solution for getting in front of the redheads? I don't know. But you don't know, but maybe somebody else does. That's the goal of this. I want to empower you. If you're ready to do it yourself, great. But at least you should have the information and the power to be able to work with other people and be confident in the decision that you're making and the efforts that you're making, that at least you have a good chance of success instead of just, like I said, spray and pray. Okay, your audience. Which of your customers are you talking to, and when are they hearing it? We really covered this already, but when are people hearing this message, right? Can you imagine if, like you said, you're trying to target a busy mother, and one of the benefits of your product is that it helps busy mothers with, let's say, supper preparation, right? Grocery store is doing a thing. We do call ahead, and we come up with a full supper, a main dish and rice and a side dish, and it's amazing, right? And they run that ad from 3:30 to 4:30. Right, on the radio, when the mother's in the car and busy with her hands full with the kids. That is great timing, right? That's tailored message. If they start talking about how they have specials, it's July and they have specials on swimsuits during 3:30 or 4:30, the mother's not thinking, I need swimsuits because my kids got bigger over the last year and none of my kids fit into their swimsuits, I need new swimsuits. That's not a good time message. It's not what Yeshiva does. It's not, maybe that's a better ad to put next to the camp ads. When the mother's thinking about camps and looking, she has to look for a camp anyways, so she's going through the circular, the ad about swimsuits is a great place to put that ad because it's perfectly timed, you know who you're targeting, and you know when they're seeing that marketing effort, you're able to figure out, and then I'm not going to run that ad on the radio at 3:30 to 4:30, instead I'm going to do that in print next to the camps. I know it says simple, but when you start thinking about these lines of logic, a lot more options and opportunities open up to you. As far as the offer, a lot of people fall into this trap of they do a lot of things, so they just advertise 100 things, 100 different areas. You know, they run an ad, Lakewood, Toms River, Howell. Wait, hold on a second. Are we unsure if you drive 15 minutes to do the service? I mean, unless you like move mining equipment and you need, state troopers to help you get from one side of town to the other, you're going to be able to get from Toms River to Jackson. You don't need to put that in your ad. We all know. And if someone actually, no one's going to look at that and say, it doesn't say Howell, Toms River, and Jackson. They probably won't come to my house, right? They'll probably pick up the phone and find out if they have that question, and then you'll answer them. Okay, you do 10 things. There's an ad sitting in my shul in Ranger. There's an ad for a guy who does painting, power washing, and staining. Okay, you don't do all three things to wood. You don't stain and then paint. You do one or the other. And power washing is not just in preparation for staining or painting. You power wash when it's dirty. You power wash stone. He has one ad with 3 different things, eating up 30%. Each one eating up 30% of his ad. I didn't call him, but I wanted to and say, listen, you're paying to have this poster put up multiple times anyways. Why don't you do one ad about paint, one ad about power washing, and one ad about staining? It appeals to 3 different people. Really, it does. And more than that, it will resonate with the guy whose paint is chipping, and every day he looks out, every time he goes out to make a barbecue, he's chipping paint. He's going to say, oh, you guys paint? And he's a beautiful repainted deck? Great, that's what I want, right? If you put a picture of a guy with, dirty stone front of the house with the lime, with the little white, the garbage on the house, the reason why you power wash, that will resonate with a guy who every time he pulls up in front of his house, his wife's telling him it's crazy, the house looks disgusting, there's white stuff dripping down the brick. That guy will respond to an ad. The power washing, the guy who needs his bricks power washed won't respond to an ad showing a picture of wood. It won't resonate with him. He'll just ignore it. It will just blip out of his mind. So deciding on keeping it very simple and very targeted and very focused is much better bet than just throwing all your things out there. That's just going back to the old thing. Is that I can't really control any reason why people would choose me. I just put out everything and cast the widest net and see if people will. And the problem with casting a very wide net with the same amount of resources is that the holes get bigger and bigger and bigger. So eventually your net is very, very wide with tremendous holes. So every fish swims through. That's what happens. Okay? So focusing your efforts on one key thing that you sell. One key reason why people, I was talking to someone, she might even be in this room, so I don't know. I only spoke to her on the phone. She was a bookkeeper. She straightens out people's books. So I asked her, I don't know anything about bookkeeping. I never had someone do that for me. I don't have complicated books, but I said, why do people do it? Oh, she said, one of the first things, they want to know where all the money is. They run business, they have a lot of volume, and there's no money left. I said, that's a phenomenal ad. Instead of running an ad saying, I straighten out people's books, why don't you run an ad saying, where's all the money go? Because here's the logic. People who don't think their books are not in order, they're not going to call you. And for people who don't run businesses, that don't have the question of where all the money go, they're not calling you either, because they're not customers at all. But one thing's for sure. The business owner who doesn't know where the money is asking himself, where did all the money go? And if you're a person, a girl who fixes books and can answer that question of where did all the money go, that's a great way to advertise. Because they don't care what you do, they care what the benefit is to them. They don't care about, I set up your QuickBooks so your business will operate smoothly. It doesn't mean anything to me. I have QuickBooks, things are running smooth. You ask a question that bothers me, now I know that you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to choose you a lot faster. Right? There are other reasons why people hire this woman. But by focusing on one, not everyone has the same questions, but by focusing on one that will actually resonate. Remember, she's running this ad. She runs a print ad. That ad has to be a laser beam. It's only focused on, out of the 10,000 families in Lakewood who get the voice, let's say, or the shopper, she only wants to get to the 150, 200 business owners who have businesses, have QuickBooks, and they're not set up right. So if she just runs an ad, I set up QuickBooks, who's looking at the ad? If it says something that resonates with the person reading it, that is going to get response. Oh, she says, but I'm not going to be able to talk about the service, the other thing that I do. Okay, you'll talk about that next week, right? Or trust me, you'll get customers, right? You have a niche. Like, let's go back to our red-headed shaitelmacher. Eventually, you build up enough of a customer base that yes, the color of shaitel doesn't stop you from the way you treat the shaitel. So eventually, when you have a happy enough customer base, and those people grow up, and they have sister-in-laws who have different color here, or a mother-in-law with different color here, or a sister, they'll refer them to you, and you'll do plenty of business without having to tell everyone that you can handle all types of hair. That's straightforward and obvious. So a custom message, a simple, the smallest, consumable message that you could think of is the right one. If you have to say more than one thing, then you're probably overtaxing your marketing. You're expecting it to do too much. And even worse than that, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're just watering down both messages. So if you actually are running an ad of any sort, Really, that's the main focus. Make sure there's one clear message. A clear message that zeroes in on one offering or one reason or one service. A unique selling proposition is something they talk about in marketing, and it's true, it's great. A unique selling proposition is something that makes you different than everything else. Okay, so let's go back to Chaim and Yankel. They're running their landscaping companies. They're the same. Okay? A unique selling proposition is something that makes you stand out. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be that one guy has super fast, machines. It could be one guy has a technical advantage, and that is something you could talk about. That's a unique selling proposition. Most people don't have that. A lot of us are in commodity businesses. The shaitlmachers, we're all the same. We all take care of the shaitls, and that's what we do. But you can do something like sideways. You can do something where you say, like I've written down here, get coffee from us in our tall green mugs. Right? Starbucks has the distinctive logo. It's not just about that. It's just that everyone walks out with it's a status symbol. I paid $5 for this coffee, right? 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You've probably seen their trucks running around. They paint 1-800-GOT-JUNK. It's a great line. And they say, just look for our guys in their 1-800-GOT-JUNK, trucks. Well, there's other junk removal guys. They all do the same thing. They take the broken dishwasher and they put it in the truck, right? But somehow they've supercharged their selling proposition because they have their 1-800-GOT-JUNK trucks. You can do the same. You sell coffee? How about sprinkling a little cinnamon on top? Our signature, cinnamon finish. You could buy a 5-pound bag of cinnamon for $20, and you can make 1,000 coffees of it. It's a fraction of a penny per cup, but all of a sudden it's that signature cinnamon finish. That's your unique selling proposition. Does it work? It absolutely does, because people perceive value based on what they perceive. If they think that the cinnamon signature finish is a good tactic, and a few people like it, then they do enjoy it more. It's a better experience. It has the signature cinnamon finish. What do you mean? It's amazing. So when you're looking for a unique selling proposition, it's a very low bar. Find something distinctive. It costs you nothing, right? You have guys who, I had a mover come to me. I just recently moved, right? His guys just showed up in like sweatshirts and jeans. Imagine if they were all wearing the same green sweatshirt. It's literally just $20, buy your guys sweatshirts. And then he says, you're distinctive guys. They come in a uniform. You feel as the guy who hired them, you feel, prestige. Look at these guys in their uniforms, right? It can be simple little things that just move the needle a lot. You might say to myself, I sell the same thing as the next guy. How do I make myself different? You don't have to be cheaper or faster. I mean, of course, you have to compete on certain basic things. But assuming you're all stuck in the same sort of commodity rut, how do you make things better? Another thing you can do is so that's a unique selling proposition. Think about yourself. How can you differentiate yourself without killing yourself? How can you differentiate yourself? And you'll see it's pretty easy. The next thing in that one is called boom. And what I say is like this, that you have to make a strong statement. If you're going to take the time to advertise, don't say general things like, we're the best. What do you mean you're the best? How do you define best, right? How do you define best? The best accountant. We're the best accounting. So accountants have it pretty good. They say, we'll get you the maximum deduction. But when everyone says that, that's also a problem, right? So, I've said this in previous classes, but you got to make a bold statement. I guarantee that you'll get the lowest tax deduction. Well, if you're confident, you're an accountant, you know the rules, right? What's the difference between the guy who says, everyone says, we'll get you the lowest tax deduction, or the guy says, I guarantee you'll get your lowest tax deduction, or I'll pay you the amount of last year's refund? The accountant knows his business. Unless someone does something illegal, nobody's going to get better results than him. So why not say, I'll give you a double back, I'll give you $5,000, right? It just makes it easier for the person to choose you, and it doesn't cost you anything. So being bold, name your service. Okay, it's a trick. On my website, I do it. I don't say 3 hours to, of consulting to help with startups. I call it the startup slingshot. I think it works. It maybe not, maybe no, but definitely better than just 3 hours of consulting to start up your business. Okay, so naming your service is another little trick. It costs you nothing. Just think about a name. Again, you don't want to hide the meaning of what you do. I think startup slingshot is very, very clear. But everyone knows what a slingshot is. You don't want to call it startup BubbleCon. I don't know what that means. It sounded good to me, but it means nothing to the customer. So, but naming your service is like a little trick that even a dentist, right? A dentist could call a service. You could say checkup, or it could be like oral exam. That's the official medical name, or you can come up with another name. Yearly. Whatever. My mind is scattered right now. I can't think of anything. But if you name your service, it gains a sort of prestige, and it helps you connect with your customers. Another interesting idea is to use a slang. Okay. So if your customers are a certain type, then knowing the way they refer to things is very important, okay? Every business is different. I won't pretend to even go into any business. But in your business, you know, I know my business, right? We talk about in real estate, we talk about cap rates, and we talk about recaps, and like we talk about things that don't mean anything to anybody, okay? But they're a slang. So if you run an ad using those words, you're connecting with your customer. You're showing your customer, I understand your business, I understand the challenges you go through, and you can trust me to fix them. Because if I didn't speak your language, right? If I didn't speak your language, I certainly don't understand your business. So that's another tip in advertising. Another important rule with advertising is solve a problem. Okay, people don't buy features, they buy benefits. They buy what's in it for them. So don't write. Seasons actually has a great slogan. They have a slogan, I think it's called "Feeding Your Family." They don't write freshest groceries because no one cares about freshest groceries. They care about, I wouldn't say no one cares, but that's not the main reason. People go to grocery stores not to get the freshest groceries. They go, everyone has basically the same thing. You're not getting fresher Tam Tams. The things in the sealed packages are all the same fresh, right? Maybe meat. But the point is that they understand that why people go to a grocery store to feed their family. So it's a great slogan. Do they operate, is that a branding slogan that's their true north? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't work with Seasons. But what I'll tell you is it's a great slogan and they're on the right track. If they actually did the things that their slogan says, maybe they'd be even more successful. Maybe they already are doing them. I don't know. But the point is that you want to solve someone's problem, okay? You want to, if I saw something, I'm trying to think of something recently. Let's go back to this deck guy. He writes that I do paint and power washing and thing. Why doesn't he just write, make your deck look good as new, a deck you could be proud of, right? Make a deck a place you enjoy. Is your deck a place you avoid? Put a picture of a crumbling deck and write, do you never go out on your deck anymore, right? That's a great question to ask. It's a rhetorical question. Of course, people whose decks are splintering or look disgusting, you tend to spend less time out there, right? So that's you're like sort of saying, here's your problem, I understand your problem, and I'm solving it. So these are like tips on like, if you're doing an ad, if you're doing a marketing effort, and you're communicating, and this is the form it's taking, it's basically promotion, make sure you're incorporating all these things that we discussed. As far as design, again, I'll go through this quickly. Design is great. Just don't get caught into the trap of aesthetic. A lot of graphic designers like to do things that are aesthetically pleasing, and they'll put in all sorts of parts of your ad. You only have a certain amount of real estate, okay? So don't waste it with curlicues and bubbles and just extra things. Keep it simple. You should already keep it simple because you're not trying to fit in a lot of things. An ad should not have too many words, unless it's a long-form ad, which is a whole different story. There's such a thing as a long-form ad where you say a lot. But that's assuming, right, that let's say you have a new technology for oil drilling and you put it into a trade magazine for people who are in the super specific business of oil drilling. I happen to know a Frum guy, I met a guy a few weeks ago who works in New York and he flies to Houston every other week. He is a petroleum engineer. It exists. It's such a business. So that's the type of ad where you can get away with people want to know what you have to say. I have a revolutionary new way of getting to oil that's below 1,000 meters. People will read 10,000 words on that subject because it's important to them. For most people in commodity businesses, you don't have to convince them. They already know. It's a question of should they buy it all? Should they buy from you? So keeping it short, keeping it simple, using beautiful photography. You will chase people away from your ads if you use crummy photography from your phone that you took with no lighting. You're competing with 100 other ads, 150 other ads. They all look better than yours. It's like a complete turnoff. It's almost impossible to get someone to look at your ad. It hurts your eyes. And I'm not saying this as a graphic designer. I'm very anti that. I'm talking about a practical sense. If someone's looking at their ad, one beautiful design after another, and then they see your picture that your 8-year-old took on a point-and-click phone, they just turn the page. They don't even want to look at it. So there are a bunch of, I would say, tiers of what you could do. One is expensive. Get professional photography. It can make or break a business. Having beautiful photography is really something, like I say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. Getting professionally shot photography is essential when you have something that has to be visualized. If you can't get professional photography, at least in the beginning, you can't afford it, then get stock photos, which are cheaper. You can get a subscription for $300 a month or buy an individual image for $50. It can make or break a campaign. Okay, if you can't afford that, there's also free options. I put it on the list. There's Pexels and Unsplash. They're two phenomenal websites to get beautiful high-res photos that are free. You can use them without any attribution license. They're free to use in commercial purposes. It can make or break your campaign. Do something beautiful. If you don't have a picture of the thing that you have, right, you can always do a picture of the benefit, right? If you have something that makes people happy and you don't have a good picture of the thing that you sell, you can find a picture of a happy person and put the ad. Since anyways, the thing that you're selling is not so important as the result, okay? There's also a website called canva.com. If you are literally bootstrapping and you can't afford a graphic designer, or you have a graphic designer and they don't want to get in line with your new plan to make money instead of wasting money in marketing, canva.com is free. You sign in with Google, you could sign in with Gmail, or you could sign up with an account completely free. They do make money by selling elements. Not everything on their website is free. There are templates for ad. You want to do a flyer, you want to do an Instagram post, there's literally hundreds of templates, business cards, flyers, legal, any size and shape. They are beautiful preset ads. Let's say you're doing real estate, you're a real estate agent, you want to make a beautiful ad. You go on, download a real estate flyer, just swap out the picture, swap out the text. It's as easy as using Word. You just click on the text box and type the new words that you want. Gorgeous, very, very serviceable ads, beautiful photography. It's an amazing tool and very, very useful for someone who's bootstrapping a business. A call to action. Every ad has to have a call to action, okay? If you run an ad that doesn't tell people to do something, you've wasted your time and your money. I've seen ads from tzedakah organizations or people who think they're doing something creative and they write, coming soon, they do a double page spread for $3,000. Well, it means nothing to me. It literally means nothing to me. You expect that when I see your next ad, I'll be more likely to give you money or to buy your product because you said you ran a double page ad coming soon? And that comes from the mass market idea. This is something that a big company would do. You're right. A big company has all the money in the world and all the runway in the world to spend as much money as they want getting you excited, and they're going to back it up with a world-class delivery system. You're going to be a tzedakah organization that's going to use an online platform just like all your competitors, but you're starting $5,000 in the red because you ran this stupid 2-page spread saying coming soon. You didn't make back your money, I promise you, right? Because let's think about it. The person giving the tzedakah is not giving it because you said coming soon. Or the person didn't buy the gown or the shaitel or the car or the house because you said coming soon. There are some things that are coming soon will get people excited for, but it's most likely not your business. Super, super niche market. So an ad has to ask you to do something, okay? Some ads have to ask you to buy. Some ads have to ask you to reach out for more information. Let's say you want to generate a lot of leads. You're a photographer and you say, run an ad, ABC photography, get a free DVD with gorgeous sunsets that you could print on canvases, whatever your thought is. Just send us your email. I want you to sign up for something. That's the call to action. I want you to come to our website and register your email. Another call to action could be buy. Buy now, limited, and depending what your call to action is, that will change the rest of the text too. If it's a call to action to sign up on a website, so you'll spend a lot of real estate and words getting people to sign up to your website. If it's about buying, you have to use things that will trigger people's fear of missing out. Limited time only, sale just this week. Limited space available. All those things that cause people to act. Again, you're trying to connect decision to desire. So, pushing people in that direction will help you when you have a clear, one simple call to action. Don't ask them to do a million things. If you're interested in more, go to our website. If you want to buy, call this number. If you want to place online, no. You have to keep it really, really simple. Every ad should have a clear call to action. Okay. Getting your message out. So, how can you get your message out? These days, there's really a wealth of opportunity, a wealth of things that you can do to get your message out. You can do print ads, you can do radio ads, you can do online ads. You have social media, which is free, really free. But the main thing is that you want to build a channel, okay? You want to build a channel because things can go wrong. You can you can be on Facebook and then Facebook can ban your account. YouTube could change their rules, and it happened many times. A lot of these if something's free, if a product is free, then you're the product, okay? Let's understand that. So if you're advertising social media, which is free, then you're the social media company's product. So they can totally change things and leave you behind. It happens to people on Amazon, it happens to people on Google. A lot of people involved in these online advertisings, they get burned all the time because the company can just arbitrarily change what they consider important, and then you're left out in the cold. So it's always important to have more than one source of business, right? Unless you have an amazing business that's growing rapidly, not that you just fill up your available hours. If you have a business that's growing from referrals, then you've won, okay? If you just make enough money by referrals, then you haven't won, okay? You're clearly not doing a good enough job. But any other source of advertising besides referrals, which is happy customers telling other people who want your business, then that's the goal. You hit the home run. Anything other than that, you should make sure that you have multiple avenues. Let's say you're in sales and you sell commercial products and you're following the Pareto rule. You have your 2 customers who are 80% of your business. The reason why you concentrate on the other 80% is because what if one of those guys moves to a different company and now the purchasing agent is someone else who buys from his brother-in-law? What happens if the company goes out of business or merges? It happens all the time, right? I'm in commercial real estate again. We had 2 insurance companies that merged. Now we have to deal with an 8,000 square foot tenant that might leave, might not leave, because they got bought out, completely out of our control. They could be so happy with our company and our product and our service, but they have another office down the block. What are we supposed to do? There are many situations like that where it's completely out of your hands. So make sure you have multiple avenues for getting business. Don't just be satisfied with one. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with build a channel. Can you define channel?
Yes. Building a channel, okay? One of the ways I advocate selling, it's hard to sell. We'll get to it, I'm running out of time over here, but if you just call people, hi, I have coffee, you want to buy coffee? No, we're good, right? That's selling. If you build a channel, it means you position yourself as someone who is valuable, right? You never question the need for cleaning help, right? Or groceries. You don't go into the grocery store, why are you trying to sell me groceries? You're hungry and you have no milk in your refrigerator. You go to the fridge, right? Your house is dirty. You're happy to have domestic help. You never talk to your cleaning lady and said, it's not a good time now. I'm busy, right? Why? Because there's a clear understanding of the value. So your job as a marketer is to make your value 100% clear to your customers. If you're not, then they're going to go chase lower prices. They're going to go chase other things, and you're going to lose them. So your responsibility is to build through advice, okay? If you sell life insurance, right? Don't just knock on people's door and call up and say, hi, you want to buy life insurance? It's so important. Put out articles. Get a free website. These days, you can get a free website from Google. You can literally type into Google my business. They'll send you a postcard. You'll be officially in business, and they'll literally build your website, a simple website, in 15 seconds. They'll take all your information and flop it into a website, and you're live. A process of approximately 15 minutes, perhaps less, to fill out all your hours and information and your street address. It's literally easy. You can do an email. You can even do a newsletter. You can do print. If you're old-fashioned, you don't like the internet, the medium is not important. It's building a channel, showing people that you know what you're talking about. So let's say, take life insurance, for example. Talking about how life insurance provides peace of mind. Put in an article. Life insurance gives someone, if you're 30 years old and you're buying life insurance, you want it to be income replacement, and look at the peace of mind, then you talk about the benefits of life insurance. Then when you call the guy up, he's not going to question why you're selling. He just read your article yesterday, or he just saw it online, right? You've made it clear, you've explained the value of what you sell clear, so that when it comes time to sell, he's happy that you're here. He's like the cleaner lady showed up. Amazing. It's about time, right? That's the goal. That's what you're trying to achieve. That your value proposition should be so clear, right? That I'll give you an example, crazy example. I had a mover, and I hired him. I used him 3 years ago. And the reason why I used him is not one thing broke, not one thing was missing. He didn't even know. I called him up. He's a grumpy guy. I didn't like him. I really don't like him. He's a grumpy guy, and he's a fool because he charged me the same amount 3 years ago as he did today. And all of his costs have gone up. His gas is more expensive. His labor is more expensive. It's the same guys. I know the workers. They're the same guys. So if he doesn't give them a raise, then they probably leave. So he's clearly paying them more than he was 3 years ago. And yet he didn't raise my prices. He didn't even know what I had. Right? He didn't have any recollection of me, and he didn't know why I chose him. He didn't ask me who's moving into your house. Maybe I'll get 2 customers with 1 stone. None of those questions. He didn't ask any questions. I just called him. He showed up. And maybe he's sitting on the gold mine, but I sort of doubt it. Okay? Because 3 years ago he was managing a bunch of guys on a truck, and today he's doing the same thing. He doesn't have a manager working under him. He's still running the day-to-day of a moving company. So, and it's his own company. And I know he's the owner. He's not a worker. So essentially he's a high-paid employee. So he runs his own business, and instead of having the luxury of running his own business and growing it, he's a high-paid worker, essentially. So he didn't ask any of those questions. He didn't explain his value to me. He could have asked me, why did you choose me? I'd say, well, you didn't break a thing. And that's amazing. That's the goal. I don't need a mover. I want my stuff to be from one place into another place. I don't need a mover. I don't need it to go in the truck. If you can magically snap your fingers, that would be good too, right? But getting it there safely is what's important to me. And he didn't even know. He doesn't know. He still doesn't know. So I didn't tell him. So the point is that if he would be giving a postcard, or he'd give me like building value. Here's a move checklist. And, it's good to pack glass and bubble wrap so it doesn't break. We're always very careful it doesn't break. One of the things we pride ourselves in, if you have glass and you're uncomfortable, our guys will pack it up. How much glass do people have? I had 2 boxes of glass. Can you imagine that if you would have told people, my guys pack up the glass, how likely would I have been to refer them? All those guys came in and they didn't want us to pack up the glass. They did it themselves and they didn't break it. Amazing. Almost a zero investment, and a tremendous leverage in how likely I am to refer them to other people or actually choose them in the future. So that's a real life example of a guy just abandoned opportunities. Instead, he's hustling around, making phone calls and running ads. Okay, instead of doing what he should be doing. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I would say mediums. It's in the thing that you can there's literally no end to the mediums. You really just, like I said, go back, analyze your customer analysis, the who, what, where, when, and why, and then it should be self-evident which mediums are the best. You have your message, you know your message. Now you got to get it into their brain. Which one's the best? You should have a good idea of which is the best. And if you don't, then you didn't ask enough questions. And if you felt like you asked enough questions and you still don't know, try multiple avenues and see which one gets the best result. And the next week, do less. But without measuring, like we said in the beginning, without having direct responses or building in a way to track, you're just going to be, on the hamster wheel again. Measuring ROI is very important. Measuring ROI is, you have to set your own return on investment, right? You could run an ad and get 5 people, but if the 5 people are worth it, then great. And if there are people who will be repeat customers, then also great. There's no real way to, justify what the response was like. As long as you're making more money than you're spending, that's a pretty good gauge that you're doing the right thing. Obviously, you don't want to make a penny more than you're spending, but that's really, you have to set your own gauge. In addition, there's something called key performance indicators, which there are 3 basic ones. Leads, how many people called me from this ad? Conversion rate, what percent of the people that called me actually became my customers? And what was my average sale size, okay? And that could be lifetime or it could be one time. So like this mover, right, he moved me and I paid him $2,000, making up a number. And the question is, will I use him again? So if he ran an ad for $300 and he got me for my $2,000, he did great. He made a $1,700 return on that ad. And in the future, he'll use me too. So maybe if I use him, let's say average person moves 3 times, he could calculate this guy will generate $5,400 in revenue from a $300 ad. That's phenomenal return on investment, right? It's not just the one time. So when you're building your campaign and deciding how to spend money, just understand that your goal is to get people to be repeat customers, and you have to look at that value too in the amount of money that you spend. Beware of shiny objects, okay? Instagram, LinkedIn, viral videos, all this stuff, it goes back to general marketing. They're all useful tools, but you don't have to be everywhere to be successful. If you don't like social media, you don't have to be on social media. It has its role, it has its place, but don't get caught up with the time suck. A lot of times you have to be on these channels, you have to constantly be promoting. You know what's right at this point. If you're implementing everything that we've said, you know where your customers are, if your customers are only exclusively on Instagram and that's where you feel you can get to them, then phenomenal. Develop a strategy to get them to actually buy, not just like your picture or comment. You want results. You don't want people talking about you, you want people to buy from you. Talk is cheap, buying is expensive. Right? So you have to do things that will get people to buy, not talk. Okay, I'm going to skip the next. No, I won't. I'll actually go through it quickly. You have to balance patience with iteration, right? I'm talking about you do something and you don't see results right away. Okay, sometimes you have to be patient. You have to give it some time to catch up, especially if you have a long sales cycle. For example, a real estate agent that advertises a house for 1 week and doesn't get results, that doesn't mean no one's going to buy the house. It takes more than a week to buy houses. It's a process that takes 2-3 months. It's something that takes a while to gain traction. Maybe not in a hot real estate market, but it's a type of product that's not just taken off the shelf in a grocery store. It's a long sales cycle. If you sell car parts, right? If a mechanic sells car parts, right? And he sells brakes, and he advertises for brake, that he does brake jobs. Okay, well, brakes last 18 months, let's say. I'm making up a number, but you have to know that your customer is not going to come back for 18 months, right? And actually, if you look at it the other way, you could actually hold back your marketing. If you mark down in your calendar, okay, I replaced this guy's brakes in January of 2019. So then in July of 2020, it might be time to send them an email. Hey, are your brakes making any funny noises? Come in for a brake job, we'll give you $5 off, or some other incentive. Just the fact that you are thinking about the guy at a time perfectly, right, is going to make it more likely for the guy to choose you, as opposed to just running an ad, brake job, okay, and paying for it, paying for the privilege of doing that. Always solicit feedback whenever you can from your friends, from your family, which again is biased, but definitely from your customers. Ask people. If you don't ask people, what they think of your ad or what it said to them. Sometimes you run an ad, you think it's so clear and so clever, and someone's like, oh, I didn't really know what you did. If someone says, I don't really know what you did, I don't really know what you do, after they see your ad and like, oh, I didn't realize that was you, then you're doing something wrong, okay? That's not simple enough. You might think it's simple because you're in the business, but someone on the outside, if they can't see it, then it's not good enough. Okay. So the sales funnel is really, okay, we've identified who we want to go after, we identified the messages we want to say and how we're going to get the message to them. How do we turn them into paying customers? So you have a sales funnel, okay? The sales funnel looks like this, is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Not everyone makes it down to the bottom, and a funnel is really misleading because it's not a funnel. When you pour oil into a funnel, eventually it all comes down to the bottom. It's not like that in marketing. It's like a sieve. It's like some people stay at one level, right? So there's narrow entrances and there's a bunch of pieces moving, and some things filter down to the bottom, some things stay at the top. Your goal is to increase the quality, not the volume of your leads. You want to get people at the top and get them interested. You advertise for something, people call up. Some people are interested in buying today. Some people are interested in buying next week. Some people are interested in buying in 6 months, and some people are not interested in buying at all. So you have different groups. You have to sort of collect those people, and you have to have a system. Again, this is probably another worth the price of admission piece of advice. You must have a CRM. Okay, I'm going to skip around now because, again, we're at the end. But You must have a CRM. A CRM is a customer relationship manager. You must have a way of tracking your customers. What gets measured gets managed. That's what they say in marketing. If you're measuring something, you can manage it. If it's just in the ear, I sort of have a good idea of what's going on in my business, you're not taking care of it. Okay? So it could be software. There's plenty of cheap software. Free software is available, or it could be a pen and paper, or it could be a spreadsheet. If someone calls you up, get their name, get their number, get their email, they price checking you, okay, goodbye, but they're still interested in what you have to sell, otherwise they wouldn't have called. Right? Maybe you'll get them the next time. Maybe they'll go for the cheap guy and they'll be very unhappy with the service and they won't remember that they called you, but you will. Right? And the guy who got the lousy brake job for $5 cheaper, 18 months later you send them an email, the same way you sent your paying customer an email, he's like, you know what, I'm going to try this guy. The last guy was terrible. Right? And this guy clearly, he knows what I need. He's sending me an email. He knows, what do you know? My brake started squeaking just yesterday. Why? Because you know when he needed the brake job. You know just as much about him as you know about your paying customer. Okay? So having a system, even a super rudimentary one, knowing your customers, knowing your leads is essential. If you don't have that, you're just, even if you do everything else, you're sort of just shooting in the wind. You're wasting your time because the people that are your leads are like the center of your bullseye, the most likely people to buy. You concentrate everything, all your efforts on them. When you run out of people in the middle to target, then you go out. But these people are in the middle. In order to become, like I said, open a channel and create and be that advisor and build that value, explain the value of your product, it's kedai to build yourself a marketing calendar. It doesn't have to be as robust as this. Just set yourself, okay, at least once a week I'm doing something. At least once a month I'm doing something. At least once a quarter I'm doing something. A life insurance agent doesn't have to put out an article every single week. But he puts out once a quarter, or maybe when people start doing their taxes, or people start doing financial things, maybe he only does it at certain times of the year. Having a calendar where you know you're doing something forces you to actually do something. Okay, that's the goal. I mean, the number one secret of marketing is to market. Okay, so many people don't market. They just don't do the things. They're paralyzed by indecision, or they think it's a good idea. They're waiting for everything to hold the stars to line up. Everything has to be perfect. It's not true. The number one secret of marketing is to go do things. Do things that will make it more likely to be chosen. If you don't do something and you're just thinking of this great marketing idea, you're going to get zero results. Okay, Wayne Gretzky said that you miss 100% of the shots you never take. If you don't try, you're not going to get any results. So it'll be the worst marketing idea of all time is to sit it on your hands. Go out and do something. Okay, so engaging, try again. You know, you have to keep on trying. A lot of people who are ready to buy just take a lot of chipping away. You have to be persistent. The goal is to be persistent in a smart way, but be persistent. Okay, this is a pet peeve of mine. I have to get to it, but looking professional. Okay? People say, I have to look professional. I have to appear professional. I can't do this thing in business because I'm not professional enough. You know, I have to wait. I can't start selling because my website isn't perfect, and you know, my logo is just, I don't like my logo. You don't need that. Okay? If you absorbed anything from this whole course, you know that you don't need a logo. It's the last thing you can get to. Sure, it helps. A logo, branding, all these things help. But if your logo isn't good and therefore you don't advertise, you're going to get zero results. If your logo isn't good and you advertise, you may get less results than if your logo was awesome, but you get much better than zero. Okay? Anything's better than zero. So people get caught up, especially in our community, like they're afraid what their schwager will say, they're afraid of their sister-in-law, this person criticizes, that person criticizes. Let's understand something. Most of the people that criticize or naysay to people who run businesses are not in business themselves. They're just naysayers. That's number one. Okay? Most people, I overrule in my house. I tell my kids, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. It's not my line. It's a famous line. But I say, if there's nothing nice to say, don't say it. A lot of people don't have control over that. So whenever they feel good, they feel knowledgeable, they just love to criticize. It makes them pump themselves up. Most people who criticize are not in business at all. The people who are in business and say, I know I'm in business, they're not in your business. And the people who criticize and are in your business, if they're saying something constructive, like you can't sell shaitels for $1, they cost $500 wholesale, you're going to lose $499, that's a great piece of advice, okay? But if they give you a solution that you know you have an answer to, you have a different vision, then just go and do it. The main thing is, don't be held back by the fear of criticism, okay? What would you rather, be able to pay your bills or face a little criticism? That's the choice that you have as a marketer. Do you want to make money or deal with a little discomfort? It's much more uncomfortable not to be able to pay your bills than your brother-in-law calling you up and say, I hate your ad, it was so stupid. You think your people can buy from you? Well, why don't you try? Just try. Try marketing, try going out there and doing things. I'm trying to see, I know we're out of time, but this is something from Allan in his book, and I'll talk about it, but one of the greatest ways to actually get people to choose you is to make it super easy. Do a try before you buy. right? That's why cars, they offer test drives. Once you get into that BMW with the leather seats, it's gorgeous, it drives amazing. You can't not drive it off the lot, right? Pet stores have a thing where they give a pet for 7 days. If you take a puppy home for 7 days, your kids will never let you return it, right? So if you know that, again, you have to have a credit card, you have to protect yourself, but a way of making a no-risk way of trying for people, that's a great way to get your foot in the door. If anyone wants to leave now, you can. I do have a few more minutes, so if you're willing to stay, great. Anyone want to get up now? It's okay. It seems like people want to stay for a few minutes. I want to cover the last stage, okay? So you've picked your business, you've crafted your message, you got the best medium, you're getting interest, everything's going your way. Amazing, okay? Or if it's not going your way, you're tweaking and you're constantly improving. Now you have customers. Getting your first paying customer is probably the biggest milestone in the business. You've achieved, whether it's friend, whether it's family, it doesn't make a difference. You got your first paying customer, okay? One of the best ways, the way to look professional, like I said, not about logo, okay? Have a good system in place. You can look professional in a snap these days. You can get a professional business address by signing up with Regis and having a professional business address. You can go on Wix, Weebly, GoDaddy, Google, and get yourself a free pretty much website. You can get a 212 area code number that looks like you're from Manhattan. There are so many ways to make yourself visually look professional, and it's much more important than having a good logo and good design is having a good customer experience. The number one way to grow a business is to get happy customers to bring you more happy customers. And the number one way to keep customers happy is, let's assume that the thing that you have is pretty much the same as everyone else's. Let's say, you sell shadels. The shadel you bought from the wholesaler is the same one as the lady down the block. So what differentiates you from the next person? It's the experience. You want to give people a world-class experience. You don't have to have the fanciest spa. You don't have to have, wait on them, hand them, foot. You have to offer some of the basic human decency that a lot of businesses don't have. A lot of businesses, especially small businesses, or even large ones, don't have any training, don't have customer service, they don't have any plan for complaints, right? I experienced myself when I first started my book publishing. I published a very thick book. It was like an 800-page book or 1,000-page book, and I paid a lot of money to have it printed in America because I wanted the binding to last. And one person sold 5,000 copies. One person called me and said, "Your binding fell apart." And I sent her an email. "What are you talking about? Like, none of my bindings ever fell apart." It was a big mistake. Like, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't keyed up for how do I deal with a complaint. I never had one. Thank God, I never had a complaint, and I mishandled it. After I calmed down, she's like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I got this book," and 2 weeks later, all the pages fell out. I thought about it, and I said, "Okay, I'm stupid, right? This lady's going to go and badmouth me to everybody. It's just a terrible idea." And my goal as a book publisher is to give people a great reading experience. If the book fell apart, I didn't deliver. So I gave her a new book. I should have planned it out. It's very simple to hammer out a lot of the problems with, how many times have you called a business and they're like, "Hello, okay, can I put you on hold? Okay, bye. Okay, yeah, what do you want?" Or even a big business, they transfer you 8 times in a bank and they ask you for the same social security number 9 times. I just told it to the guy. It's my social security number. If anyone else would be asking me this many times, I would think it's a scam, right? So what's going on, right? They didn't think about the user experience, okay? It's a very easy way to hammer that out. You're about to start a business or you have a business, take these 6 things. Seeking information, buying, returning, complaining, and complimenting. 6 things. 6 basic common business functions. Simulate it. Call up your friend, call up your wife, your husband, your wife, sit down and say, "You're a customer, I'm the boss." I called up, "Hi, you're selling yo-yos. I want to buy a yo-yo, okay. How much do they cost? Okay, they cost $5. Okay, how can you get it to me? We'll put it, I don't know. We never thought about this. Okay, well, either deliver it or you can come pick it up." Simulate an actual conversation. You don't have to be aggressive or anything. Just one person pretend to know nothing, one person to have all the answers. And if you don't have all the answers, okay, take a step back, move it back a step, and just write it down. It shouldn't take you more than, you're not usually on the phone with a customer for more than 5 minutes, right? If that, it's probably long, unless you're like an accountant, right? Or an attorney where you're paying for time. But if you have a product or a service where like a landscaper, it shouldn't take that long. It really could take you probably an hour to run through all your business processes and figure out, it's A, B, C, D. Oh, we got stuck on section G. We have no way to handle online credit card returns. We don't have a way of processing back the money. Our system doesn't provide for it. We got to solve that problem. Just literally walk it through one time, and then you'll have the answer to treating your customer right. If you treat your customer right and do the basic things that need to be happen, a quick answer, a knowledgeable answer, a friendly service, not cutting people off, being able to properly handle basic business functions sets you way ahead of the competition. And like I said, it's not just small companies that have problems with this. It's big companies, cell phone companies, banks, right? You think that if I couldn't pull my money out of my current bank when they treat me like that, I would. It's just too much of a hassle. But I would. And if given the first opportunity, I will, because they have terrible service. right? I once had an experience with a hard drive maker where I called them and I got tech support. A normal guy with speaking clear English, no accent. And I'm not saying the guys in India aren't knowledgeable, but they typically have a major language barrier. They're reading through a script because they don't want to mess up. They're trained, they're trying to accommodate, but it takes 25 minutes extra. I don't have 25 minutes extra. I'll get the same result. And this company had an American, someone who spoke perfect English, no language barrier, and he was able to solve my problem like that. Now, who wins? Everyone wins. The company wins because they spent half the time. You want to know if they spent maybe more than double the money from the guy in India? Maybe. But I'm much more likely to buy that person's product than I am the other companies because I know I don't have to deal with that crazy customer service. I'm going to deal with someone who will get me on my way in 20 minutes. So yes, the call may have been cheaper to handle in India than America. But what's the lifetime value of that call? The company that hired the Indian people lost a lifetime customer or drove him away if I was even on the fence. And the company with great customer service may have paid more for that 20-minute phone call, that $20, but I'm going to buy the $400 hard drive from them the next time because I know I'm going to get that level of service if I should ever need it. So providing a great level of experience, of basic functions that people take for granted is underrated, okay? Giving something extra. Giving something extra is something that's underrated as well. I don't mean just giving something extra because it lowers the dollar amount and more value. It's something that's thoughtful, okay? Two examples are either an actual product, right? Someone buys a car, put an air freshener in it, right? It's a simple thing, right? Or you put let's say you're buying a car and there's no mats, so you put like some floor mats. Maybe it costs $200. They just bought a $20,000 car. That shows that you care about them. That you want the car to look good, right? It's a thoughtful thing. There's a famous story of a guy. There was a guy in Chicago, a car salesman. His name was Joe Girardi, and he sold he had 19,000 customers in his 30-year career. Now he sold 19,000 people cars. So he may have sold thousands more because over 30 years people buy more than one car. And his thing was he would write a handwritten note every single month to all of his customers. And by the end he had 3 full-time people working for him. 3. That's all he did. That was his whole shtick. He was a great guy, great salesman, but he would just thank his people. Happy New Year's, Christmas, Easter, all the holidays, he would send a handwritten card. A handwritten card is something that is thoughtful, right? A lot of times, if you're especially in a high-value, low-volume business, right? If you're a business, let's say like Shaitl's, it's an expensive business, you're selling a Shaitl for $1,200, you don't have 10,000 customers, you have 100 customers, you have 50 customers. Think about how nice it would be if you sent them a letter, right? A handwritten card thanking them for the purchase, okay? This sounds crazy, but let's go back to our Matseva lady. I said, what's a great way to build your customer base, right? It's a crazy morbid business. How about on the yard site, send them a picture of the language that they or you came up with that's on the headstone. I know for me, my father's headstone, it's very meaningful for me. Imagine a thing, the neshama should have aliyah, a picture of the text of the headstone. It's simple as that. Something simple. It's on. Why do people buy matzeva? To have a zikaron for their passed away loved one, right? So this is a on-brand thing. If you look at the Compass, the Business Compass, they don't sell headstones with words on them. They sell something that helps people remember people who passed away. So by sending a card on the yard site, that's a beautiful gesture. It's a nice thing to do. It will make the survivors, feel good, and it'll also make them more likely. How likely would it be? Like chas v'shalom, someone's in that situation, right? They'll say, maybe you should go buy from them or whatever. Suggest them. Again, a super morbid example, just one that comes to mind. It's recent, but by making a little something extra, a little personal gesture, it costs you nothing and will gain you tremendous benefits over time. Another thing you could do is give them what they want, but also what they need. I'll tell you 2 quick stories. Okay, NordiTrack. If anyone remembers back in the day, NordiTrack was like the biggest treadmill company in the world. Everyone bought NordiTrack. My Shrez has to have a NordiTrack. There's a company called Peloton that recently leapfrogged them. Billions and billions of dollars worth of treadmills. What was their shtick? Very high-end treadmills, but they put in a huge screen that live streams personal training. You could just walk onto the treadmill and you could type in and you can get a live trainer as if talking to you. Okay? So what do people want when they get a treadmill? They want someplace to fitness, to work out. But ultimately, most people on those treadmills end up in the basement or in the bedroom as like a hanger, right? So you gave them what they wanted, but you didn't give them what they needed. They said they wanted a treadmill, but what they really needed was someone to motivate them to use the treadmill and to lose weight. And then NordiTrack lost business because people just said, I'm never buying another one. If it breaks, I'm not going to buy another one, and never used it. Why they never use it? Because people don't need treadmills. They need someone to motivate them to do fitness. And a machine is not going to do that, as well as a live personal trainer. Well, Peloton realized that we're in the business of getting people healthy, not selling treadmills. And by putting on a live trainer, they were able to sell. They expanded the market. They made all of a sudden people who said, I'll never use a treadmill, say, I will use it because there's someone live, ready, who will call my phone, right? It's a computer, will call your phone. It's time to work out. Let's go. So they gave them what they wanted and what they needed. I'll give another example. People sell generators, backup generators. Backup generators turn on in the case of emergency. During Hurricane Sandy, my uncle was a manager he's the head maintenance guy for like a dozen nursing homes in New Jersey. All of them went out, all of them went to backup power, and then he spent 2 weeks running around repairing generators because nobody changed the oil on the generators. They were running for weeks straight. Imagine how many miles they were clocking up. They needed oil changes just like a car engine. That's essentially what they are. They're car engines in a box. So the company that sold the generators would never get business from them again. They all burnt out. Who do you think they're going to? A new provider. Why? Because the generator company didn't give them what they needed, which was training. They gave them what they wanted, backup power. They didn't give them what they needed, the ability to keep that long term, right? Training, reminders. Hurricane Sandy, they should have sent an email to everybody or a letter. They should have sent their salesmen down around. You're going to need to change the oil every 2 weeks if you're going to run this 24/7. Instead, they all burnt out. They all died. They had people in crisis because they had no power for the oxygen machines, and they lost thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of generators. So this is an example that you have to give people what they want, but also what they need. Increase your profits. You should always be, you're very welcome. You should always be raising your prices, okay? Doesn't have to be for your existing customers, but on a consistent basis, pre-scheduled raise prices, okay? Your costs go up, up, up. If your price stays the same, you're going to be eventually run out of business, okay? So you can raise your prices. It's a good tactic. Having it scheduled will make it even easier to do. And one of the ways of not alienating old customers is grandfather them, keep the old price for old customers, and only raise your prices for new customers. Okay, solicit referrals. One of the most important things is to solicit referrals, okay? Happy customers are your best source of business. So get into the referral game. Someone told me once, I don't like to get referrals, I like nudging people. You're not nudging people. If you really believe that the service that you have is valuable, and clearly the person who bought from you thinks so because they paid you money and they're happy, why wouldn't you ask them for referrals? Or if you're a great accountant and you save someone a lot of money, why don't you tell them, you want your brother-in-law to pay an extra tax bill? Of course. You also want him to have the same savings that you had. So suggest me. You're withholding a great service from your customers. So you're shortchanging customers. In addition, a great way to do that is not to come after the fact, but in the beginning. Like once you're already involved with them, like imagine that mover, right? If he would have been like during like I hired him, he showed up, if he would have come over to me and said, listen, one of the ways I grow my business, I keep my prices low, is that I don't have to advertise. I get word of mouth. If you don't mind, if you could refer me to whoever's moving into your house or someone else you know is moving. You set an expectation for a referral, you're a lot more likely to get it when you ask for it later. You're very welcome. And that's really it. I'm sorry. I know I kept you guys extra. That is practical marketing from A to Z. I definitely gave on the material. I know that, but I feel like if I could just open the conversation, this is not the only time you'll ever see me. If you'd like to ask me questions on any part of this, I am available 4 nights a week. Not this week, obviously, but 4 nights a week. You can book on my website. I'm available for free from 6 to 7. You can book a session if you want to follow up on any of the topics covered here or something that wasn't covered here. I'm more than happy to help you out. I would like to again thank Chesed of Lakewood. I'd like to thank Nathaniel Epstein and Torah Anytime, who, even though it's not a Torah course, we're definitely trying to help people with Parnasa, and he came here and agreed to video tonight's lecture. I hope you all gained. I will send a follow-up survey. You can let me know your thoughts. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. Have a wonderful night. Go. This book is called The One-Page Marketing Plan by Allan Dib. Book's probably about $15 paperback, and it's worth roughly $1 billion to all of you. Allan Dib. This is a phenomenal book. When I was preparing this course, I was like struggling with some of the organization, and I stumbled across this book. It's not a New York Times bestseller or anything as far as I know, but it is literally a really skinny book, very easy to consume, and it covers a lot of the principles that we talked about. Different order, different organization, but if you really are serious about starting your business and you don't want to talk to me, and you're willing to take the time to read a book, this is the one book that you need to read. This is the one, I will repeat, this is the one marketing book you need to read. You can grow a business and employ 1,000 people by studying the principles in this book. You don't need anything else. Good night.